All right, 10 o'clock, Town Meeting 2024. Welcome one and all. I'm Greg Jolly, the present year's Town Meeting moderator. What I'm going to do is open up by reading the warning. We'll move on to the first article, get through that first vote, and then I'm going to hand it over, or whoever is Town Meeting moderator will hand it over to our representative so she can update us on what's going on in Montpelier. So I'm going to read the warning. The legal voters of the town of Jamaica in the county of Windham and state of Vermont are hereby notified and warned to meet at 10 a.m. at the town hall in said town of Jamaica on the first Tuesday of March 5th, 2024, to transact the following business and act upon the following articles. First article, article number 1, to elect a moderator for the term of 1 year. I'm going to hand it over to Jessica, and she will conduct the election.
I make a motion to elect Greg Jolly as our moderator for a term of 1 year.
A second.
Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing no discussion, I will call the vote by hand. All those in favor of electing Greg Jolly as moderator for a term of 1 year?
I recommend that the town clerk make one vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Town clerk.
You just experienced a shortcut. We will be depending on Ed this morning for shortcuts.
Okay.
So thank you all.
Fine.
The meeting is open. The first article is through. I am your town meeting moderator for the next year. I am now going to hand it over to our representative, Laura Sebelius. Please welcome her.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving me a little bit of time. This room is warmed up right there. My name is Laura Sebelius. I am your state rep for Windham 2 District. I serve as the vice chair of the Environment and Energy Committee. This is my first 2 years on that committee. Previously was on the Energy and Technology Committee. I am the co-chair of the Rural Caucus in the House, which is approximately 50 tripartisan members who focus on issues where there's large consensus for rural Vermont, and also the co-chair of the Veterans Affairs and National Guard Caucus. This year, I've been spending a lot of time in our committee working on a bill, sifting through a bill that has to do with changing Act 250 jurisdiction. I'm happy to go into that if you would like. It is definitely in flux. It looks at changing Act 250 jurisdiction, which is our land use, our state land use laws, to have it be automatic based on location. The purpose of that is to exempt large areas where where there are adequate staff, bylaws, and permitting, municipal permitting from the Act 250 process. So like our 23 largest towns are likely to be able to be exempt from Act 250 if this were to pass. And then also to look at increasing jurisdiction and creating an automatic jurisdiction in places where we have critical resources. I've spent a lot of time with Trustee Askins in your town talking about critical resources. Those can be however we define them. And right now, definitions are around river corridors, wetlands, habitat connectors. There have been considerations of elevation, steep slopes, any number of different ways of defining critical habitat. As that bill was introduced, it was envisioned that that would be a tier 3. There'd be 3 tiers. The first is exempt. The second is basically what we have now. And then the third would be automatically fall under Act 250 jurisdiction. You would need a permit. Depending on how that definition of critical resource area is defined, we've seen estimates of anywhere from 10% of the state having automatic Act 250 jurisdiction to 85% of the state having automatic Act 250 jurisdiction. In particular, that would, a lot of change would likely occur or never occur in rural Vermont. And so that has been a pretty significant focus for the Rural Caucus in the House, as well as in our committee. The Rural Caucus has asked that any changes of this scale come with the resources for communities and our regional planning commissions to help communities deal with them. I would say the status in Montpelier, right now we have some pretty significant issues that we're all grappling with. Certainly Jamaica understands the issue of more water pretty consistently and what that's doing and how to mitigate for that. We have a demographic challenge, which we see throughout America, really, with the baby boomer generation and that generational shift. We're getting a lot older. And then we also have just the globalization of our economy and the digitization of that. So as we become more connected, the world becomes smaller, competition becomes more intense, et cetera. So those are pretty significant challenges to be facing, and we have less and less money to do so. So there has been a tremendous amount of federal resources that have come in through COVID, also through some disaster funding. Those are going away, and the need is growing, and the number of people to do the work, as I've said, we've seen this demographic shift, is diminishing. So those are some pretty fierce challenges that we are facing in Montpelier, that your communities are facing, your select board. You know, I don't know if it's happened, and hopefully this is not a bad move on my part, but having interacted with your select board in this past year, and I know that the amount of work that these folks are doing, particularly dealing with flooding and more water, is unbelievable and really heroic. And so I would actually ask if we could give your select board a round of applause for that. Along those lines, the legislature just recently passed in the Budget Adjustment Act, which is where we true up and see what is happening in this year's budget. Are there additional revenues? Are there not as many revenues? Are we spending what we thought we would be spending? In the Budget Adjustment Act, there were resources that were allocated to help communities, the communities that were most impacted by flooding. That includes Jamaica. That passed last week, the House, the Conference Committee report, which is where the Senate and the House have agreed. It is now with the governor, who is expected, I believe, to sign that. And in that, there is approximately $330,000 for Jamaica to help offset the losses that have been experienced in the flooding. So that's
Fantastic, great.
a drop in the bucket, I know, for what you all need. I would also say your select board has worked with some of your neighboring towns to communicate to the legislature, which I found to be extremely helpful, about the size of the challenge that your community is facing with more water, that you can't solve that challenge on your own if you're in a watershed, and you have neighboring communities who make decisions as well. And you've been pretty articulate, your select board has been pretty articulate that we're gonna need resources and we're gonna need help deploying those resources. And that, I am so grateful to have that letter, because we have to hammer that point home over and over and over again in Montpelier, that again, the size of the challenges that we're facing are really, really a lot for communities that don't have a tremendous amount of full-time staff. So there are any number of things that I could talk about. Jessica, was there something else that I should mention that we talked about?
I think it's really just, when do we see the 330,
Yes.
which is in our upcoming tax year,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, yeah. So my expectation would be that when the governor signs that those funds should become available immediately, and I will work with your select board to make sure we get those here as expeditiously as possible. Happy to talk about any other items. There's been a lot of discussion around education and property taxes. Happy to talk about that for folks. This is not your school board meeting. Yeah, we yeah, that's right. So, what's that?
Heating.
Yes. So there's, is there something in particular on the heating that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Heating tax?
We kindly don't.
Yeah.
I've been very vocal about it and gotten nowhere for writing, etc. So, yeah, I don't need for anybody to add any more burden to anything, just like everyone else.
Yeah. So are you referencing?
Here it is.
So, we're hearing around a burden on heating, a question about an update on the burden on heating. I think what you're referencing is the Affordable Heat Act and the Clean Heat Standard? Yeah. Okay. So, thank you. I will give folks an update on that, actually. Last year, when we passed that bill, what we put in place was a process for learning what the cost implications would be, what the benefits and costs might be if we were to move in the direction of putting a performance standard and regulating the sale of fossil fuels. What we have seen is a doubling of fossil fuel prices in the state in the last several years, which is completely unaffordable. There's literally no levers that the state of Vermont can pull to help offset that for folks who need to heat their home, which is everyone. And so this would look at how do we help reduce fossil fuel usage and lower cost. I heat my home with wood and propane. I would expect if in fact the legislature were to, when we receive all of our information, which will be next year, on whether or not this is possible and how much it might cost. If in fact the legislature were to move forward with that next year, I would expect in the future to continue to be heating my home with propane and wood. There's been a lot of misinformation that has been out. It's about reducing our exposure to a really unstable pricing of fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emissions. So happy to talk more about that. We have received, I've been sending out updates on what has been happening. We've received an update on a study that was done around pricing by the Agency of Natural Resources, which demonstrated that some of the wildest numbers we were hearing out there were really unfounded. Projections that we're looking at now are in a few pennies variety if we were to move something like this forward. We have just received information from the first quote-unquote check back from the Public Utility Commission, which is an appointed body that regulates our utilities and our and potentially our fossil fuel sellers. They have said to us, we are establishing all of the groups and processes that you want us to establish in order to get a better sense of the cost and potential opportunity here. And we think we can do this. It's a little bit tight in terms of the timeline. The next thing that's going to happen is what is called a potential study. What that does is it looks at do we have the human resources to do this? How many fossil fuel dealers are there? What is the potential impact on the market if we do this? We look at a whole bunch of economic analysis points. And the point of all of that is to give the legislature information in order to make a much better informed decision than just saying, we're going to do this. So that'll be next year. The next legislature will have to grapple with all the information that we've been gathering. Education. Oh.
Go ahead. Education will tie into this.
Okay. So education, last year we passed a correction to pupil weights. Pupil weights are how we account for the cost of educating different types of students. Our Constitution says that we need to offer equitable opportunities to every child. Through Act 60, we put in place, which was in the 90s, a statewide grand list. And the purpose of that was to ensure that we were providing equitable opportunities for every student in every town, in every district. The means of achieving that was equal dollars per student for equal taxing rates. Well, it doesn't cost the same to educate a student in every district. So for instance, as a very, very simple exercise. If you have 10 students in a rural 5th grade classroom, and you have 20 students in a more urban 5th grade classroom, and their learning needs are all the same, it's going to cost less per student to educate in this larger class. That's not how the system was set up. Okay, the system was set up so that we said, well, it'll cost the same. And that was particularly harmful to rural communities and poor communities like where we live. For 20 years, we were under-resourcing rural and poor communities and over-resourcing larger, wealthier communities, which is exactly, I believe, the opposite of what Act 60 was supposed to do. So we've been fighting for a long time. A lot of us in Wyndham Central Supervisor Union, folks in my town, myself, to correct those pupil weights so that our towns could have better opportunities for our kids and also have some tax relief, which is what a lot of these larger towns in Chittenden County and other places have been able to provide, more resources for their kids with lower taxes. Last year, not last year, 2 years ago, we put in place, we finally voted in corrected pupil weights. When you do that, you're looking at a defined amount of dollars. So basically, you're changing how many slices are going to be cut for communities. Because there was going to be a pretty dramatic effect on some of our largest and most wealthiest towns, as there was in Act 60 with a lot of our ski towns, we put in place a hold harmless mechanism, which has now been repealed. Let me shortcut to that, but it was basically saying your taxes can't go up more than 5%, and we're not even going to look at your budget unless your per pupil spending increases more than 10%. Well, there was no qualifier for who could access that, and so what was shaping up is that every town, every district, basically, was looking to access that. And really, why wouldn't they? You know, on the ground, your school boards are looking just at their district. What is the best we can do for our district and our taxpayers? And on a district by district level, that was a rational decision. But at the statewide level, it was not. And we were looking at pretty significant increases in the non-residential homestead, and we'll see as a result of town meeting votes. That was pulled back, that cap, and a more targeted just for communities that were negatively impacted by the change in pupil weights, property tax relief for them. Other things that have happened that are impacting property tax rates right now. We have brought down in Montpelier property tax rates for a number of years. When that happens, it reduces the pain, therefore reduces the need to make a change. Right? It doesn't feel like, it feels affordable when it may not be because we're artificially lowering the tax rate. We've done that for several years. With COVID, there was a tremendous amount of federal funding that came in. That has the same effect. That has the same effect. With COVID, there was also a huge increase in need, particularly in mental health needs in our communities. We've also seen a huge spike in real estate values, which has put our grand list out of whack in the majority of our communities in Vermont, which means we're looking at a CLA common level of appraisal that is not accurate in a lot of our towns, and that also impacts. We've seen healthcare costs going through the roof, and this is something that I think we have had a hand in creating, and we have not worked to mitigate. In fact, we are considering proposals this year to make it worse, as far as I'm concerned. And then there are other statewide programs that we have put in place. People will point to universal meals. The fact of the matter is, numbers, and that is an additional cost. There were a number of communities that were already offering universal meals. Let's go back to the pupil weights that were incorrect, and some towns had capacity to do that, and some didn't. Now we're all doing that, so the towns that were doing it are able to spend on other items. So there are many, many factors going on with property tax rates. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, Dana?
Yeah.
Dana West. In going with the education, is there anything being done in the legislature about affordable housing? Because with the lack of youth and young families, we lack students, which raises our taxes, you know, the less we pay more in education. If the legislature introduces any affordable housing help so young people can live here, not second homeowners coming to play here.
So,
Airbnbs.
thanks for that question, Dana. Dana's asking if there's anything that's being done around affordable housing. And I would say yes, and then also, what do you mean by affordable housing? Because I could tell you where we're at with affordable housing, what income level we're talking about.
That's a big
Yes.
area to cover.
It is. And we are predominantly investing, and we invested significantly last year in housing, development of housing that is at 80% of area median income or below.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you know, your teacher and your police officer are not there. They're at the 120%. So, we are doing a lot around that. I would also say that there's a fair amount of conflict within the legislature. In the Senate, and I don't know if you've heard from Senator Harrison, I expect you may see her today. Senator Harrison is on the Economic Development Committee, and she and her committee with Senator Ron Hinsdale have worked on a housing bill throughout this session. And it's very similar to proposals that the governor has made. They have also included some of these Act 250 changes in there, but a lot slower. In our committee, I think it is fair to say, in the House Environment and Energy Committee, I think it is fair to say that there is some skepticism about whether or not rural communities need housing or should build housing. You know, there is a general push towards your village. You know, we want to make it, we want you to build in your village. Not in the rural areas, and we want to conserve the rural areas.
Sprawl.
Yes. Yeah.
Eliminate.
And there's, you know, there are pros and cons to doing that, and the question is, you know, how can is that accessible to everybody? So I don't want to go on and on, Jessica.
No, I think that was it, but there was one other
Yeah,
question.
right here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm Betsy Thompson, I live on Winterville Road, and I'd say in the last 4 months, I'm asking about consolidated communications, if you can update us on
Yes.
what's going on corporately, but we have had at least 4 outages
Yes.
in the last 6 months,
Yeah.
and some of them were 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Some of them were just 1 day.
So this is really problematic. There is a Public Utility Commission. They also regulate our telecommunications, our phone companies, not our telecommunications. And I've just put out on my website, which you can find, I've left these up here, and also you can just Google my name. There's a press release that I put out that talks about a hearing and a proceeding that is happening at the PUC. I believe it is the 7th or 8th of this month. And what's happening is Consolidated, their equity investors are going to take the company private. And I'm not sure that that's great for what's going on here. I can talk about the larger issues at play. But individual citizens and your town can weigh in on that. You can go to the PUC site and you can file a comment. If you have a hard time doing that, and you send me a note that says Jamaica PUC comment for the consolidated case, I'll submit them all together. The PUC site is great because you actually can follow what's happening as a case is proceeding, but I know it may be challenging for folks. I really want to encourage you to weigh in and talk about the reliability issues that you've had, the amount of time that it takes to get repairs, and the cost. I am really, really concerned about what is going to happen here. The copper telephone line, we have the ability to regulate in the state of Vermont, meaning we have some means of saying you need to go fix that, even though it's taking a long time. When you look at broadband and wireless providers, we are federally preempted so far, which means we can't do anything. That has, the broadband and the wireless have competed and really deteriorated the market for the copper, which means it's more and more expensive with less and less customers to maintain. And so the people that are reliant on copper now are our rural communities, particularly places that don't have wireless, and they're literally reliant to call for help. What is happening at the federal level, our carriers like Consolidated are asking the FCC, which is the federal regulator, Federal Communications Commission, to allow them to retire their carrier of last resort obligations, meaning that they have to continue to repair and maintain that. So I want to make sure that you are properly concerned about this in Jamaica. Jamaica is a part of the Deerfield Valley CUD for Windham County, which is coming here, but it's probably going to be another couple of years before you get coverage, full coverage here in Jamaica.
Fran?
Hi, Fran Janik. I have been dealing with Consolidated Communications, and I'm understanding now through Fidium Fiber that we will be getting fiber on my road, Mellis Road in Jamaica, by April 15th.
Great.
Does that mean they don't have to maintain those, or was that the copper lines we're talking about?
So copper is literally copper phone line, and then the fiber it's strands of glass, literally, and it's a lot faster. So if they're installing fiber, you can use your phone will work.
Yes, I
do
understand.
voice over
What I'm
IP.
asking, perhaps my question wasn't clear.
Okay.
What I'm asking is, you just said that Consolidated Communications is working to have the responsibility for taking maintenance on those lines. We have power outages all the time. We have
Yes.
phone outages all the
Yeah.
time. Trees drop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The question is, do they have to maintain the new lines they're putting in, or are you specifically talking about the copper pair lines that are there now that they won't maintain? That's the question.
So companies like Consolidated are working to get rid of their carrier of last resort obligations.
Right.
So there are a lot of companies that are trying to do that. I don't know that Consolidated is visibly trying to do that at this moment, but I certainly expect them to. I think your question is around, okay, great, we've got fiber, we've got voice over IP, which is the way you can use your phone over broadband. What if the power goes out? So the copper is going to go away at some point. And so the answer to that is going to be battery, I believe. And these are kind of broader questions that our CUDs will be grappling with, that the Communications Broadband Board will be grappling with. Am I answering you, Fran?
Almost.
Almost.
So the question, of course, is, you said they're trying to get away from the responsibility. Are they doing that just for the copper pair or for the fiber as well?
They don't have a responsibility on the fiber.
Oh, they don't? Okay.
No, they're not. So they're not regulated. They are regulated by the market.
I see, okay.
Broadband is regulated by the market. So, which I would say to you, I think it's a critical resource, and I think there needs to be more regulation of that. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you be gracious not to announce a snail mail address where someone could write you?
Yes, sure.
I
So my name is Laura Sibilia, S-I-B as in Bob, I-L-I-A. My mailing address is Post Office Box 2052 in West Dover. And the zip there is 05356. Let's see if my snail mail is on here. And it is. I will leave some cards here as well. And I guess, unless there are additional questions.
I think that's great. Thank you, Laura.
Yes.
So there are plenty of seats up front. I see a lot of people standing. We have seats for everyone if you want to come forward. If
Very
you're
good.
two people
We now
together,
have-
there are 2 seats together.
Yeah, so people, like she said, we have seats up front. If people who are standing wish to come up and sit here. And we have
Wendy Harrison.
and
Oh,
State Senator, and she's here too. We're going to hand one off from the other, if that's okay with the body. Very good.
Thank you.
Final thoughts for folks. I definitely want to hear from you via email. My cell phone's on here. Text is the fastest way. We have no staff. And so, unfortunately, from time to time, your email or your text may go unaddressed. So I would invite you to be insistent and reach back out to me, please, and not take it personally. So thank you very much.
I
echo that.
So one thing I want to tell people is this over here is checking in so you can vote from the floor if you're a registered voter in the town of Jamaica. And you'll find packets of paper, different colors. If we go to a written vote, that's what we'll use. In the back here is where you sign in for the presidential primary. And then move over here to vote, and then you can check out over there. So if you haven't come over here and checked in for the town, to be able to vote, oops, sorry, please do. Very good. Now, we hand it over to,
Wendy Harrison.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good day.
Appreciate the time, and happy town meeting day. I want to echo some of what I think that Representative Sebelius probably said, but the CUDs are very important to me, and I've been in local government for many years, and back in the old days, the towns actually franchised cable companies, so the towns could insist that the cable companies deal with and provide service to everyone, and we could regulate their rates. As you may have noticed, that is no longer the case, and the rates just go up, up, up. So that's because they have been able to first get the regulation at the state level, and then most recently get the regulation at the federal level. So we don't have any regulation on the cable companies, and I think that's bad for the public. But the CUDs, which is a Vermont initiative, is wonderful in my opinion. So I'm a big supporter of the CUDs, just because they exist. Not only will they provide service, but they're also going to provide it at an affordable rate, which is really, really important. So, I'm Wendy Harrison. I am one of your 2 state senators. I was just on a new thing, so I'm just trying to get to as many as I can. The 2 of us serve 19 communities, 19 towns, and you're all very different, which is really cool. But it's hard to be in all those places at one time. I serve on 2 committees. All of the senators serve on 2 committees. I'm on the Housing, Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs Committee is one committee. And then the other committee is Institutions. And on the Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs Committee, for last year and this year, we've been really focused on housing. And last year we did the Act 47 bill, and then this year we spent the first 4 weeks on Act 250 modernization. That is something that has been necessary for a long time. Act 250 has provided all kinds of benefits to Vermont. We've kept our just the beauty of Vermont because of Act 250, but it was done in a time when towns didn't really have planning and zoning capabilities. Now a lot of towns do. And so the idea is to have tiers of development. You can read more about it because I don't want to get too much into the weeds. This is a town meeting update that's from me and Senator Hashim, who is at another meeting. But you can read more about that. But the important thing is we're at a pivotal moment because the folks who are typically opposed to each other, so the business interests, the environmental interests, public housing providers, private housing providers, developers, they all got together last summer
to talk about how do we move forward in a more logical manner, and how can we make sure that development happens where it should happen and doesn't happen where it should not happen. So that group is still together. They're still advocating. There was a letter in the paper today about it, but the work that we did in my committee helps further that report. So I really hope it goes through, because those kinds of alliances don't happen all the time. The Economic Development Committee also does things like we put in funding that helped bring the federal money that is improving the CHIPS bill. I don't know if you heard about the expansion at Global Foundries. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and 125 million is coming to Vermont to expand that factory and make the most modern chips now into the future. And that was because we put $4.5 million in last year, so it was a huge return on that investment. We work on workforce, which is the problem, and they're challenging, both because of our demographics and because of housing. I won't go into too much about that. Sure.
Quick question or comment on chips. Not sure everybody understands that you're talking about microchips for computers.
Oh yes, microchips. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, not potato chips. We make good potato chips too. But no, the microchips, and I have my notes that, because there's a really specific kinds that we're making now, but they're in defense. There's defense products that they're in, but they're also in phones, EV cars. We need them for everything. And obviously there were problems with supply chains during COVID, and so having these chips produced in America and wonderfully in Vermont will help with those supply chains, as well as really give us a long-term good economic source, because they're going to help pay for our schools, which we need. So the other committee I'm on is the Institutions Committee, and that committee deals with the 2-year capital program of the state. And the thing that's getting the most buzz on that committee is the potential closure of the Salisbury fish hatchery, if anyone's familiar with that. And it's a really good fish hatchery. It's where all of our trout eggs come from. And our committee, in it was both parties, Republicans and Democrats, voted out a bill just on Friday to not close it, because the governor's proposal is to close it now, even though its wastewater permit goes through 2027, because the reason to close it is that the wastewater isn't where it needs to be in terms of quality. But our committee felt like it was premature to close it, and that we have some time to figure out what to do with the wastewater. So that's what we did on Friday. So I'm excited about that. So learning more about Trev. So those are the committees. I have some bills that I worked on about different healthcare issues, but specifically Medicare Advantage. But I just want to talk a little bit about flood.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
And this needs to be a longer conversation, but one of my bills helped towns, or will help towns, put in stormwater utilities, which is, you don't need to already have a water or sewer utility. It's a mechanism to fund stormwater management. And I would recommend it for Jamaica. Obviously, storms and the floods have been horrific. That's not going away. I was saying about 4 months ago, I was saying we need to act before people forget. Unfortunately, we're not going to have a time to forget, because I don't think we're gonna have a break between these storms. And there are things we can do about it. We don't just have to take it. What we can do is have stormwater management, first of all. The state already has authority over the rivers, but the state has chosen to not have active authority and management of the river corridor. So that's the land that's next to the rivers. Rivers don't know political boundaries. So rivers need to be managed at least in a watershed manner. And I'm a strong advocate for the state managing river corridors, which is that area that's the land around the rivers. You need to make sure that the way that the land is used does not increase the damage that comes from storms, which in many cases it does.
But Wendy, a lot of the land is, or West River is federal. Army Corps of Engineers, do they own the land, or does the state who?
The state probably owns it, but they might, but
I
it actually would be helpful if they own it, because they would, I mean, they've seen river corridor management. I mean, they're good at managing.
Are you kidding?
Well, they're good at managing the dam, actually.
Yeah. Right, so who trumps who is what I'm saying.
The federal government generally trumps. But the federal government has also delegated a lot of that, of the water management to the state. So that's a really good question. So I have to find that out.
Okay,
So
so
that's
that's
part of
about the Townsend Dam where the silt is atrocious. I mean, and it's not gonna work the way it was designed to
Yes.
work if it's all silted in.
So that's
So
a
who
huge
does
thing.
that? Is it the federal government? I mean, Becca Ballant, I mean, working with her, but she is really.
Yeah, well, this is something that I'm gonna be worrying about. So, and I have been, and I will. So, yeah, we'll put that on the list. And I appreciate you bringing that up. So stormwater is, I don't think we don't have time to deal with all of it. But I just want you to know that I am actively engaged in that, and I will stay engaged in that. Right now, the governor is against the proposal from the Senate Natural Resources to have enough staff to manage river corridors because of the cost of the additional staff. But the cost of the additional staff is not even 1% of the harm of just the July flood. So we really need to think long term. So I'll be updating too in my newsletters about that. But I hope, we need to have community conversations on that.
There's a question here and then the question here. Yes, right there.
Yes, you're talking about the rivers. Is there some place that we could call, I live at the bottom of a huge mountain, and my land is becoming a swamp. Is there some place that we can call to get some advice or someone to help us?
Yes.
Because
It's
pushing
the
on my house,
it's
and it's because it's just coming down the mountain.
right, and that's why we need connections. All of this. There are people now in the river section of it's the Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, and there is a river section.
I don't live
in
near
that.
the river. I mean, I'm not worried about the river flooding me, but, I live in
But-
Rocky Mountain. It's just,
But are you next to a river?
No, she's saying runoff.
It's runoff.
it's on the road.
Okay.
It's not right
Yeah, and
beside
so
the
that's the
river.
kind of thing that we need to work on too. And that's where stormwater management is not just the river.
Right, and I'm on well and on spring, and the spring is, I don't use the spring, but the spring is coming down into my yard. So
Wow.
I need to do something on my house.
Right. So that would still be Department of Environmental Conservation.
But there is someone I can call that.
Yes, but unfortunately there aren't enough of those people, and it might take a little while. But you can call me too. My phone number's in that or email.
Is there any information yet on how the state permitting of river corridors might impact the properties that are in river corridors and possibly limit or eliminate the opportunity to do anything on your property?
That is, not that I know of, but that has to be part of it. But right now, we're just trying to get the state to take authority of that. Because as you know, some towns have river corridor bylaws and others do not. So I think it's safe to say that the bylaws will not encourage development in the river corridors. There are some types of development that are appropriate. I know you know, in the town of Brattleboro, obviously the Irene was a terrible flood, and the latest floods were not as bad because the town actually has some restored floodplains. But after Irene, there was a study done on the Whitestone Brook, and it's downtown, as you may know. But there are developments that would be okay, but they need to be developments that are expected to have water flow over them at some point. So there is some development that you can do.
Are there other questions for the senator? Yes, Drew?
From the flood rescue perspective, since we spent a lot of our time this year out assisting people out of difficult situations, is there any funding being proposed to support those teams that go out and rescue people that are trapped in buildings and vehicles?
Not that I know of, there should be, but you need to be part of the conversation when we talk about just this whole challenge, because it's important that we don't forget, because we're generally people are pretty optimistic, but you have stories that you can tell of the trauma. So you need to be part of these conversations. Thanks for raising your hand.
Yes, Andy?
Did that gentleman say who he is and what he does?
Oh, it's Drew.
Well, I know.
She knows him.
We know.
Drew Hazelton. Are there other questions? I think we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as the senator said and the representative said, they have left behind some hard copy, which I always appreciate. So when you come out through, you can get that. Now, would you like to get down to brass tacks?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get a few things out of the way here. Just some cleanup. Like I said, primary voting for the presidential race is over here. So if you want to do that, keep that aisle open so if traffic comes in and is not part of this meeting, they can get in and out easily. Let's see, there's going to be a potluck lunch here at the end of this meeting, correct? So
Yes,
remember that. There's stuff being kept warm back there. We have BCTV over here, and later on, if you want to look at it, you can look at Comcast channel 1078 or 1079 or Southern Vermont Cable channel 10. Or you can also go to their website, brattleboro.tv.org. So that'll be up as soon as they get this edited, or whatever they do. Remember, if we have any floor votes, you have to have this packet, all right? And we'll call out the color and you vote on that. If you vote on the wrong color, that will be a disqualified vote. All right. A little more housekeeping. Let's see what we hear. Again, make sure you've checked in with the clerk over here so that you have the right to vote. That's Sarah right there. And if there's no objection, I would like to allow any non-voting but property-owning individual to speak before the body. And if that's all right with the group, we can vote for it, or you can just say it, we'll just let it go. They will not be able to vote on anything, any article, or any officer, but they can speak to an issue that might be of concern to them when it comes up in an article. Is that all right with the body?
Yes.
All right, thank you. There's a whole bunch of rules I could read, but why don't we just fire into this thing and see if I remember them. All right, so we're going to go right to Article 3 now, to elect the following officers.
Two.
Oh, yeah. Boy, I must have a blockage on number 2. So let's go to number 2. So it is to review the town report. Do I have a motion to review? Yes, Dana?
I have
Well,
No.
we got to go through the procedure here.
Okay.
Okay, I got a first, we got a second?
Motion to a second.
Okay, very good. And again, we're on Article 2 to review the town report. One little detail, the person who gives the first motion has the first right to speak on the motion. So Dana.
I, Dana West, make another motion or an amendment to the prior motion that we do not accept this town report as presented. We have found omissions, errors, and lacking of information within this report.
Okay, from a technical perspective, back when the town had auditors who were voted officers, we used to have to vote to accept the town report. Because now we have outside auditors, we can only review it, which means that motion cannot stand. However, that doesn't mean we can't discuss the issues going deeper in there. So, who would like to speak? Ed,
Can
you
I-
seconded if you wanted to speak to the, yes?
Oh, did we not have a second yet?
Yeah, no, Ed seconded.
I'd like to make, if I may.
Okay, let's start there.
So, the one thing I do want to sort of ground us in is that we lost Terry last year. And there have been a number of people who have spent a great deal of time, for which they are not paid, to examine the work that had been done by her on her own for many years, and to rebuild it, to address things that we found as well, that always happens when someone changes position, and then to create a budget for this year, keeping the total amount that we are asking, only 2% increase over last year. And it was a challenge. We had many more meetings than we've had to have in the past. The staff in particular, we have a new assistant treasurer and our new treasurer. I personally want to thank them, as well as every member of this select board, and Tom, who stepped in when we lost a member, to go through the effort of building this town report. So I just want to start with that. I'm quite sure there are issues to be raised, but please understand that this was after a very significant loss, and many people stepped up to fill in that gap, and I thank them to do that. Excuse me?
Do I get a rebuttal?
A role model?
Rebuttal.
Can you respond?
Because I kind of think you're directing it a little angrily toward me.
No.
Okay.
Okay,
No.
whoa.
I wanted to, it's
You're-
a
whoa,
thank you.
No discussions, all right, between answers and questions, all right?
Right.
So let's keep it civil. And you're directing your questions to me, and then I will just see who can answer the question, all right? Conduit. Ed, you had the second motion, if you wish to speak, and then I see Bonnie next.
Yes, but this is not the time to discuss the line items on the budget, correct? This is just.
You can ask questions about what's in the budget when we go to the other article, which then you can go to the line item.
Okay, the only one thing I have is that long time ago, even when we had both the elected auditors and the other auditor, there was always a professional auditor. There was always a letter of the auditor telling us in the book here that what a great job everyone's done. I asked that question a couple of years ago, and the answer was, oh, it's in the town offices. I think, and I would like to make a motion that it gets approved, or for next year, that letter gets added here, so we don't all have to go to the town offices, and we can read the letter that says that we are in good standing orders and their official review letter.
Do you have, is there a second to that motion?
Seconded.
Okay, is there discussion? Will you restate what you just said?
Really?
Yeah, we're following form here.
All right. Long time ago, I don't know if you guys remember.
No,
Okay.
the motion.
The motion. Oh, okay, I thought that you wanted me everything. To include the letter of the auditor, of the professional auditor's report in the town.
In the town report? Okay, good. Now you can discuss it. Yes, Lexa?
I have a concern on the outside audit. It was not posted as it's supposed to be or put on the website.
And in the internal control, it's a 51-page audit, which is available to the people, the taxpayers or anybody. In the internal control, it lists 7 deficiencies and also a deficit of over $1 million. Has the select board started to correct the 7 deficiencies, and how is the deficit going to be repaid?
She's concerned, with the audit, it was 51 pages. In it, there were cited 7 deficiencies. Has the select board moved forward in addressing those deficiencies? And then there was also a $1 million deficit, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank
So
you very much.
two-part.
I mean, any one of us can
Yeah.
respond,
Yep.
but Sarah, you just correct me if I'm saying anything incorrectly.
All right, Tom, can we move the question, because that's not really part of.
We're not really voting on it.
We're not,
This is a discussion. People have
This
to
is the
understand
review
what
of the
the issue
report.
is. I would hope you'd like to understand what the depth of the issue is.
Right, but
So-
my only thing was to add that letter back in, not talking about the deficits and.
Right, and so now people know that it's a 51-page letter.
No, there's a 1-page letter that summarizes that.
Okay, so how would the body like to go? Lexa, I'm going to come back to you, okay?
Right, that's a much deeper discussion.
All right, now, let's just stick with this. Would somebody close the question on this? All in favor of closing the question? Aye. Thank you. Now, what we're going to do is vote on Ed's amendment, which is that next year, the private auditors have their 1-page letter printed in the town report. All in favor of that? Aye? Aye. Those opposed? So moved.
Question of clarification.
Right.
I do not believe we can vote on something that hasn't been warned, and we can take that as a suggestion.
You just got your suggestion.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do.
But it's giving you, you are a legislative body, and you can counsel them. That's why you're here. So good. Now, we're going to go to Lexa's question.
Right.
And Lexa, I think they've got it. So,
Yes. So there were actually more than 9 deficiencies. There were quite a few recommendations from the auditors, the outside auditors, with respect to last, as of last year. And we are chipping away at all of them. Some of them, I would say, were more substantive than others. And we are in the process. Our goal, Lexa, is to correct every single one of them. We are facing headwinds in general in terms of staffing because we have a huge backlog of activity around recovering from the July flood and then the December, second act. But it's those deficiencies are on our checklist, and we look at them and we, for example, there's a deficiency around tracking the plastic bags, which we can talk about later. But that we're getting in a new shipment of bags, we are putting together a process to address that deficiency. In terms of the close to $1 million, about $740,000 of that is a deficit in the flood fund that stems from Irene. We made a decision together with the auditors to repay that out of taxation over a 10-year period. So this year, there's $75,000 to go into that fund so that over the next 10 years, hopefully sooner because we have some other sources, but at the very least, we needed to put in place a 10-year plan for that. We've also, I think with respect to the remainder, we've allocated $25,000. There are 2 ways in which we're hoping to cut that 10-year recovery down. First, we are still eligible for FEMA funds from the July 29th, 2021 flood. Anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000 we hope to have come in the 2024 tax year, which would be a huge benefit. And there is also the $331,000 that was just allocated to the town of Jamaica with respect to flood relief. So that is technically also eligible to help plug the gap that was in the flood recovery, the flood fund. So that's addressing that. But I feel like, was there a third point, Lexa, beyond that?
In the budget, the line item
It's in you'll remember that highway is separate from the rest.
Page
It's in
17.
17.
If people wish to look at
Thank
their
you.
town report, we're looking at page 17. Yeah, Sandy.
In the past, I was the one who the auditors talked to, and over the years, since Irene, they have, that was a concern of theirs, that we pay that back faster. But we had that at like 0% or 1% or something, so the boards that I sat on weren't in a hurry to do that. And here we are, a couple, 2-3 floods later, and, you know, accruing more damage and needing more money. Now we're gonna pay it back. So I just, that was brought to different boards in the past since Irene. That was one of the things that they were concerned about, the 3 times that I took the audit, or volunteered the audit.
Okay. I have here, and then I have Clara.
So the $1 million gap that exists is going to be made up for through funding from a flood from a few years ago, and this new infusion of money that you're just talking about, like $250,000 or whatever.
No,
Three
right.
quarters of- all
Right.
That pays back the debt we've got going on, but how are we preparing for like not having an issue?
So it's not repaying a debt. This is my first year working with, in depth with municipal accounting, which is, I find pretty complex. And those of you who are familiar with it, God bless you. It's repaying a fund. So after Irene, the town spent money it didn't have, basically, is really. We had the cash, but we didn't allocate it for flood relief. So we took that money and we didn't pay ourselves back. That's how towns operate. We're nonprofits, right? The only way we get money, we don't earn money by selling things. We get it through tax revenue and through state and sometimes federal grants. Okay. So we had collected over many years a nice, healthy flood fund, and we depleted it after Irene. So we didn't get fully reimbursed from FEMA. That gap wasn't filled. But we are actively doing it now.
Okay, thank you.
Which will then be a fund for the next
Yes.
thing that hits.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Clara?
Yes, this leads to, I would like to address this as town manager. Could you introduce the town manager?
He can introduce himself, town manager.
Administrator.
So people know.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have is on page 44, where you listed you wrote, what you had. There's listed one grant. I'm also looking at the board writing down that, excuse me, that we were going to make up some of these deficits by grants and included, in revenue from the town. Can you tell me how many grants that you got last year in 2023?
We had the MERP grant, energy efficiency grant that was allocated for 2 properties, and the town plan update more recently was approved that I helped write. But I've been focused since July on the flood and working with FEMA, documenting, probably a lot of you see me driving around, taking photos, meeting with property owners, buyouts. So a lot of the focus on grants has shifted to addressing the flood issues and trying to work with our neighbors and trying to address, as we touched on, why is this water coming into town? What can we do to mitigate it? And where is it coming? It's coming from the resort area. And what can we do to address that?
My concern was that we were going to rely on grants to help pay down our taxes, which is what was printed in the book. Taxes, the 2 deficits that we had, the $7,900 and the $5,000 whatever dollars. The total, it's stated in here.
Yep, hold on.
It's stated in here, excuse me, that we were planning to use grants and revenue from property tax. So that's why I'm asking the question about the grants and what they are. Also that they are on page, I think, 13, I see 3 grants, but the figures that are listed there are in the negative. I'm not quite sure why that is. If you
So on page 13, there are 3 grants listed, and they're in the negative, you say,
Yeah,
Clara?
well, it appears to be. I'm not sure how that, it says
Well-
actual and the variance, and then there's no numbers for a voted budget or for the proposed budget. So, I mean, there's the listers grant, there's the wastewater grant, and the library grant. But under that, I don't see, under revenues, meaning money coming to us, if I'm correct, I don't see that money.
Well, I haven't been responsible for any of those grants that you referenced. I'm asked by the select board to pursue certain grants, but none of those that you
None of
mentioned
those.
were part of my duties with the town.
So my concern is, I guess, if we're relying on grant money to help us pay down our deficits. What did we get last year for grant money?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe
Most of the
somebody-
monies were really this year. We've gotten about 60,000, hopefully with the MERP and with the town plan update.
Well, thank you.
Is there anybody on the select board who want to
I'm
address any
not
of
sure
these?
I'm following the.
Yeah, I guess I'm only picking up a little bit of the reliance, we're not necessarily relying on grants to pay down our budgets. The grants usually have a very direct one-to-one relationship. So we're receiving a grant for a very, very specific project. And so we're envisioning, and with Mike's help, seeking projects that we can benefit, the town will benefit from, so the grant would be an offset for the expense of that project. And like Mike says, and we all know, I mean, much of the focus has been trying to get money back through FEMA, and you could almost look at that as a grant, and that we're funding something that's already taken place. And there's certainly a lot of stuff in process, but
Well,
not
excuse me,
specific.
but I was looking at the figures that were listed under the deficits, the 2 figures that are listed for the 7,900 and the 5,000. And in that, it's stated that grants was something you were looking at as a board, if you look in the town report.
Well, what we're relying on for the budget is in the budget column. So if there's not a grant listed in the budget column, we're not relying on it. Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of.
Okay,
that answers my question.
I saw Drew and then CJ, and then we'll go back over here. One thing I would make a suggestion, just from the moderator's perspective, back in the day, all these lines were numbered, so that when we had a discussion on the floor, somebody go, page 44, item 56. Just an observation, because it's hard for me to follow where the discussion is. So just a suggestion.
Would you ask people to introduce themselves?
What's that?
Ask people to introduce themselves.
Okay, very good. So Drew, and I've been requested that when people speak, please introduce yourself. So Drew, one more time.
All right, Drew Hamilton, I'm looking at page 28, and the top line, the $501,000 deficit in the general fund. And I guess I have 2 questions or concerns. These financial statements are reflective of where we were at the end of July, or end of June of 2023. And we've since had 2 floods. So if we were $500,000 deficit in June of 2023, what are we anticipating this year's deficit to be now that we've been through 2 additional floods? And could somebody explain why we have a $500,000 deficit in the general fund? That's not clear to me.
So can I answer the first question to the best of my ability, and then I ask anybody else to step in. So we are going to be raising funds imminently in 2 tranches to cover the cash outlay that we've experienced with respect to the July flood. The first is very low-cost borrowing through the Vermont Bond Bank. And we are waiting to hear imminently, Drew, how much we can borrow from the Vermont Bond Bank. About $30 million was allocated to the towns in Vermont who were applying for this loan. It's a 0.25% interest, literally 0.25, 25 basis points. So it's very advantageous. However, the amount of applications for that funding exceeded the total amount allocated by more than 100%. So at best, we're going to get half of what we asked for. Once, we'll know literally, if you just listen to the next board meeting, we should have the dollar amount that we can close on with the Vermont Bond Bank. Once we have that number, we know the gap, right? How much money we need to borrow in order to meet our obligations this year to cover the outlay that we've made for flood recovery. We're going to have to borrow that at commercial rates from M&T, which is our municipal bank. We will look again. I did some hunting last summer when this all first happened to try to get some good rates, and a lot of other towns are doing the same thing. We're all looking for more money that we can borrow at below commercial rates. Also, Laura, she has some information on her website. There is a motion now to do a second round through Vermont Bond Bank before the next tax year. So that will help, that's how we're gonna cover that cash until our FEMA funds come in. And I'm not maybe the best person to discuss it, but what we anticipate as of right now is basically about 90% of that spend being covered by FEMA. This is an extremely excruciating process, very labor intensive and extraordinarily precise, at times a moving target kind of effort to successfully apply to FEMA for these funds to be reimbursed. We have a fantastic team here, many of which spend lots of hours with interesting folks from the federal government to get that money back. So it's going to be, what I know will not happen is that we will get that 90% in this tax year. What we will get is the funds that we need to borrow for this within this tax year. Hopefully we start to get those funds in the next tax year. They've already been pulled from the federal government and they are sitting at the state level. But there is not one town that has successfully yet submitted their FEMA applications because it's so complex. I do suspect that all towns, including ours, will have completed that process at some point next summer. So within the tax year you're voting on now, we will start to get the reimbursement, and hopefully, that's why I said in my note, it's a multi-year effort. We'll probably, hopefully see all 90% in the 2026 tax year, fingers crossed. So all debt that we're carrying to cover the flood recovery should be wiped out, hopefully in 2026. So, and I'm sorry, I probably rambled a little bit there, but hopefully that answers the first question. And now I forget your second question.
State the second part of your question.
Oh.
Real quick for the second part, what is the 10% liability the town is expected from flood? What is that?
So that's also a moving target because we are applying for two types of funds from FEMA. One is just actual costs that we've already incurred, which were to bring our roads, culverts, and other municipal assets just essentially back to where they were before the flood with a federally approved improvement, right? So it doesn't have to be precisely there. We can actually improve the asset a little bit, like a culvert size can be increased. Certain ditching can happen just based on that. We also would like to undertake mitigation projects. So those are projects that are beyond where we create, for example, a box culvert or something much more significant that is not allowed automatically under a disaster order from the federal government. So what that number, what the 10% will be, will depend on whether we get approved mitigation projects from FEMA. And we won't know that until the next tax year. You'll see that number in our next budget, not this year because we don't know it yet. Does that?
I'm sure a lot of people here want to get on the select board to deal with all this.
Yeah.
So CJ I saw next, and then I'm going to go here to Bonnie. So CJ?
So you may have just answered, I'm not quite sure, I'm a little fuzzy here. Because earlier we were talking about a 1
deficit, and you talked about 750,000 of it being flood related. And now when I'm looking at this page, it's 1.2 million, and you just talked about the 500,000. So maybe my question is answered. I'm not sure what happened to the other 250,000. It's part of the 1 million.
Okay, sorry. The anticipation is that the 730 in the 501 will be covered over a 10-year period. That was the discussion that we had when Lexa raised her hand. So it is separate from this year's flood, right? So these are deficits that stem from prior years. Drew was asking about how are we covering ourselves, because he knows, he sees all of the money the town is spending to recover from both the July flood this year, just in 2023 and December 2023. The roughly 730 plus 501 will be a combination of taxes over 10 years, FEMA money that we're still anticipating to come to us from the July 21 flood. And there's some funds that that Laura Sibilia discussed just this morning that were voted in, where the town of Jamaica is going to receive $331,000. So and I apologize if I was throwing around numbers that were inaccurate, but it's on page 28, the two fund deficits they're old. They're, commencing from the period of time in Irene.
So when we referenced 1 million deficit, it was page 28?
Yes, so as far as I'm aware, unless someone's aware of something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That answers it.
Bonnie?
My name is Bonnie West, and the question that I have, in reading last year's minutes, when you voted the budget and the amount to be raised by taxes, it was a specific amount. If you go on to page 13 and you look at your 24 budget, and you add the taxes, the current taxes and the highway taxes, you come to a total of $1,432,858, which happens to be $96,300 over what you were voted to approve to be voted. So basically you taxed us higher than you needed to raise the amount that was voted. It's what it looks like.
I'm looking to, Sarah's running some numbers now.
The current taxes that you voted to raise for the Democrats was $507,298. And what you had put in for highway taxes was $925,560. And that came to $1,432,858. But you only voted approved to raise $1,336,558.
She's not wrong. That's all I can say.
So you basically, this year's budget, you have taxed us for more than what you needed to. Than what you were
You expended more than what you were given. Or you budgeted for.
Wait. No,
So-
we're raising more, you're saying, than we need?
The revenue exceeds,
You raised more money than what was voted.
And we spent
Right.
more. Oh, we taxed more last year. Oh. So you're saying with respect to the last tax year, not the tax year we're sitting in?
Tax year.
Right.
24.
Right.
In last year's town meeting, you voted approved for taxes to be raised was $1,336,558. But if you go onto page 13 and you add in your 24 budget the amount of general fund taxes and highway taxes, it comes to $1,432,858. $432,858, which is $96,300 more.
So we raised, then was
Then you were
approved at the last meeting?
Yes.
So we approved at last year's town meeting, $1,336,558. And that is on page 10 of your town report in last year's minutes, if you want to see the number, page 10, right at the top.
Article 8.
But then if you go to our budget that is printed, that reflects last year's, and you add the 507, which is the current taxes, the top line on page 13, and then you take the highway, which is 925, and it's the 1.4 million, instead of the 1.3, which was what was approved at town meeting last year.
Again, this is where I say if each line was numbered, we could more easily find them as a body.
This is supposed to be lower.
So if you add
But
this,
no,
what you say,
let them-
you say we should do this.
They're talking this out. Just,
And then you subtract it from.
no, they're not going to solve it. Okay, that's a question. Bonnie, do you want this solved right now?
But this
Or
was-
you want an answer?
So we have an error in the voted budget column, is that?
$96,300 should end up at the end of the year as surplus.
Right.
Because you don't have the authority to spend it. But if you have to deficit spend, you can do, and we take care of it next year. But you're not supposed, you set the tax rate, it should have been.
Right.
Right.
You owe us money.
As on page 10, Article 8.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're speaking specifically about the 2024 budget, not the budget we're voting on today for next year. Okay, all right, that's what I was missing when you were first speaking. Okay. We'll have to, yeah.
Well, that can come up in another article, or you can put the surplus. So, we've been the numbers have been crunched. There appears to be a surplus.
Bonnie, that was, first of all, I want to say thank you. That was very careful. And that's exactly the kind of examination we need as we transition from our longtime treasurer to a new one, coming from a former treasurer.
Precisely.
So thank you.
Yep.
And I hope you don't mind if we come back to you with questions after.
Okay. That's clear. I have here, and then I'll come to Ed. You've spoken before.
All right.
I'm taking other people first.
Oh, great idea.
All right. It's the rules. Yes, please.
Hi, Chrissy Haskins. Just following up on Bonnie's comment there. Just in my experience, generally your total revenues are going to match your total expenses in your budget. And if you look at column 2024, if you look at 2024, your total revenues on page 13 are $2,154,130, but your total expenses on page 17 are $1,856,530. And then if you look at 2025, it's off by approximately $2,000 and change between revenue and expenses. So normally those things do match. Revenue and expenses are equal.
Yeah.
And people think that we don't care and we don't read the town report. Is there somebody else who hasn't spoken, has a question? No, Lexi, you've, Dana, I don't think you've spoken yet. You have?
I opened it up. but
Okay.
It's an important.
Go for
thing.
it, go for it.
Part of the town report, a colleague of mine who's up for re-election, it's not warned, his position is up this year, and we don't have an opportunity to vote our colleague in. It was excluded.
What is the position? I don't want to know the person's name. What's the position that is not?
School director for a term of 3 years. Yeah.
It's not here.
You look in the minutes or in the listing of, in the front of the book. Page 2, West River Modified Unified Union School Director. I obtained one position. The next position is a 2-year of a 3-year term until March 2024.
Oh, Drew, you don't get to do it.
It's a position that should have been warned.
Right.
We will have to have another vote.
I want to look up and see if it
Unless
can
we
legally,
do.
are you?
If it's, no, Dana's correct. If it is not warned, you can't vote. Okay, well, they're looking at that. Are there,
So can I?
are there other, okay, I saw Ed here. Okay, whoa. Thank you. I know this is getting tedious, but this is how it works. I'm gonna go to Ed and then I'm gonna go to Alexa unless there's
Greg,
somebody.
can I respond to that? Just
Go.
because we should have a plan. So I think we're gonna have to call a special meeting. I suspect, but, because it's not, I'm gonna take a quick peek to see if we can add it as part of, any other business that can legally come before the meeting, which it might be, but probably not, in which case, but we will take care of it.
Okay, right.
Good. Wait for another meeting, folks. Okay, Ed, and then I'll go to Alexa unless there's somebody else who has a question.
All right, just real quick, on page 11, which is the minutes from last year, right in the middle where it says Christy Haskins gave an update on wastewater. They're moving forward and the town was awarded over $60,000 in grants. I don't see that revenue anywhere.
So I'm gonna let Chris eat, but it's basically, it shows up when we spend it, and it's a pass-through. Chrissy, do you wanna address how the grant works?
Sure, I was also looking for that in here. If you go to page 29, and it's in the cash receipts section, it's towards the bottom there, there's a wastewater study grant income of $10,000. The program is a reimbursable program, so as the town requests reimbursement, the town gets the money up to the total amount. And you can see on page 31, towards the top, under planning commission, is the wastewater study grant expenses of $16,000 and change. And we just haven't requested reimbursement, for about $6,000, but that is coming. So that's where it was. I looked forward to earlier.
Thank you.
A clarification? Yes.
So the number on page 31 is 16680, and the number on 29 is 6912. Are you saying we've been reimbursed for all of them except $6,912?
We have been reimbursed for the $10,250 as of June 30th. And then this is, the reimbursements was something Terry was handling. So I need to do I offered to help the town with this. So I'm gonna do a reimbursement request for the remaining $6,000 and change. So we'll get that in this current fiscal year. We don't always get it in the same year, depending on the state schedule.
And where the town calendar falls. Okay, Alexa?
I'm not sure I'm supposed to bring this up now or on the Article 4.
Give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot anyway. This is on page 13, expenses, payroll and benefits. The select board salaries, it looks like last year it went up from 5,500 to 7,000. This year they're asking for 8,000. According to,
We can't hear you, Lex.
oh, sorry. Okay, it looks like the select board has raised their own salary. They cannot do that. It has to be a warned article in the town meeting warning and voted on by the people. And that's the state statute 24 V.S.A. 933. I don't know.
Can I?
Yep.
Yeah, so Lex is absolutely correct. The select board over several years has on occasion increased the stipend, and not at town meeting. So, this is something that has been done in error in the past. It has to be voted on, at a town meeting. We can ratify prior expenses at the next town meeting. We cannot bring it legally before this meeting. I would only urge everyone to understand it's a very small amount of money for the amount of time that members of the select board are putting in. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So by putting it in this present budget, you're trying to rectify that illegality?
No, we can't rectify it until next year. It was not, it was not something we had focused on. It's
Caught after the fact?
Yeah.
So it will be on next year's
Next,
warrant?
we'll put it on next, we'll warn it for next year.
Last year, they asked for 7,000 in the tax service slipped in. This year, they're asking for 8. Can we lower the budget?
If that's what you wish, we certainly can.
In the other article coming up, you can go through line item. Yes, Andy?
Historically, or the last time I remember, that came up as an article when Alexa was the select board chair. So that's why I mentioned it, that I didn't know whether something had changed because it got raised one other time. I've been on the board for a while. And then we looked it up, and it is supposed to be an article. We didn't just like raise it because we wanted to have more money or anything, you know. It's just one thing to do. Just kind of forgot that the last time was a number of years ago, because I remember talking about it. We were like down to 750 or something. Okay. And was going to go up to 1,000, and there was a big discussion about how come so much at once. And that's how long ago it was an article.
A little history there. Are there?
That's all it is, history.
The chairperson was getting 1,200 and everyone else was getting 1,000.
Okay.
Woo-hoo, good job, Chair.
You're right.
Any other questions?
6 cents an hour.
You can always call the question. Thank you. Do I have a second to call the question? Excellent. All in favor of finishing with Article 2, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Now we move on. We can get up and do some exercise if this works. All right. That is the most I have ever seen the town report referred to from the floor. All right, let me get back to where I'm supposed to be. Okay, so we're going on to Article 3, which is to elect the following officers as required by law. And we'll go on to the first one. Is a position select board for the term of 3 years by ballot. Presently, Jessica has held that position.
Nominate Jessica.
Second.
Jessica's been nominated. Are there other nominations?
Close nominations.
Nominations are closed. All in favor of Jessica being your select board person for the next 3 years, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Abstaining. Excellent. We move on to B, select person for the term of... Cast one ballot?
I move to cast one ballot.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Oh, it runs in the family. Good, excellent. Okay, so B, select person for a term of 1 year. Presently, Greg Melmans has been in that position. Do I hear a nomination?
I nominate Greg Millmans.
Greg Melmans has been nominated.
There was a second.
Now second is...
Close nominations.
Any other?
You can do it after I say something. Are there any more nominations?
Close nominations.
Thank you.
Cast one ballot?
Cast one ballot for Greg Melmans? Yes?
Yes.
Excellent. Greg, thank you. All right. Although I remember you saying this year was going to be your last year.
Yeah, I said that last.
That's right. C, select person for a term of 1 year. Derek Alls was on the board, moved out of town, and then Tom Tolbert was appointed by the board to fill that position until town meeting day. So do I hear a nomination for a term of 1 year?
I respectfully decline.
He respectfully declines. Do I have another nomination from the floor?
Stuart Barker.
Stuart Barker. Now we're going to go into the adjectives. Okay, he vehemently declines. Do I have another?
I'll nominate Len Beerman.
Len,
Second.
Beeman, sorry.
Len Beeman has been nominated. Are there other nominations?
Move to close and cast one ballot by the town clerk. How about that?
Nobody else?
Any other?
So all in
wait,
favor?
wait.
Yes?
I see a hand. Okay. Wait. There was a hand. Oh, here he is.
Front row and center.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
We cast one vote. He is in that position, select board person for 1 year.
Yeah.
Len
We
Beeman?
have a full board.
Okay. Lister for the term of 3 years by ballot. Let's see, Valerie was in that position, resigned, and then
Ed.
Ed Dortaduke was,
I nominate Ed Dortaduke. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I'm afraid that the candidate himself would have to decline. Law. I do not step in the way of law. Ed? His wife has declined for you, but I can't accept that. Do you want the nomination?
Yeah, I guess. I didn't think I.
Okay.
Are there other nominations?
I call the clerk vote.
Okay. One vote for Mr. Dortaduke for your lister. Congratulations. I'll make it
Sorry,
up to your
Jen.
wife later.
Sorry, Jen.
There we go. Okay, so first constable for a term of 1 year. Rob Willis has served in that position. I'll hear a nomination.
Let's nominate Rob Willis.
Very good. Seconded. Thank you. Are there other nominations?
Close nominations?
Nominations have been closed, and one vote will be cast.
That's my voice.
No, this is voice.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, voice. Okay. Good. All in favor of Rob Willis being your first constable?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to second constable for a term of 1 year, and presently Ben Williams.
Nominate Ben Williams?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of Ben Williams being your second?
Nominations, but that's.
Close.
Good. Thank you. All in favor of Ben being your second constable? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. G, trustee for public funds for the term of 1 year. Rob Willis is presently in that position. Nominations for this position?
I nominate Rob Willis.
Any other nominations?
Close nominations?
Very good. All in favor of Rob Willis being your trustee for public funds, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. H, agent to deed land for the term of 1 year. Again, Rob Willis presently holds the position. I'll hear a nomination.
I'll nominate Rob Willis.
Rob Willis, do you have a second?
I'll nominate Andy Coyne.
Andy Coyne has been nominated. Andy, you're, okay. Any other nominations? Who nominated Rob?
I did.
Yes, yeah, there we go. Thank you. And Greg nominated Andy.
Is this for the deed of land?
Yes.
We-
Why not?
Are there any other nominations?
Boring just being select board member.
All right, are there any other nominations?
Close nominations.
Very good. Now, we get to use our packet of colored votes. 'Cause you can-
What color?
No, you have to do a vote from the floor when it's a 1-to-1 vote.
What color?
Two candidates against each other.
Are we doing purple? Yeah.
Yeah, do purple. Yes, Ben. As far, if Greg is putting them up, I believe it will be legal. I think they've talked about it. So, purple, it's Andy Coyne or Rob Willis. Come down the center aisle, in the box, and then go out around the side.
This year because there may be some buyouts, and I believe that's when that comes up.
Because we have two representatives, and I was seeing people really get antsy one day. Yeah, no, I talked with her, and it's okay.
He kept looking at me like, oh, Terry. Yeah, I know it's hard.
For anybody eligible to vote, if you do not have the packet of cards, you can come to the clerk here and pick up the card. Yeah, for the, you can watch it on TV later. Yeah.
Why don't we get one here for you?
No. Oh, I might. Yeah, oh, yes, that's true. Yes, I agree with that.
Was supposed to be here, she's not, so we were thinking about trying to squeeze something out, but I think we'll go to Strat. We'll go to the observation deck, not Strat. Right. No, it's actually, it'll be mostly, it's like 90% or something. Yeah,
No, not at all.
Yeah, it'll just be like a sliver, basically. It's gonna, yeah. It'll be complete, Burlington, it's gonna be complete. There's a possibility of promotion. But I was like, oh, and it's expensive. And I don't know. I just was like, yeah, I know, exactly. And I don't know anybody who, thinks that. I mean, there are people who are trying to vote that. I mean, it's a little cold to
It was a plain tin box, no hand. So that's exactly what they did. Now the one sad thing was they had
because they're using
Army guys in full dress. They did the folding of the flag, they had the bugle. The bugle was so high.
Yeah, but that's, I don't even know why that's there, because the banners are big.
That was a little smart. Yes.
Microphones are there for the people to talk into.
It's for the television.
Anything.
Okay, that's something we're going to have to address. I had somebody else say the same thing.
And not being used.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't think
That's different.
Rob, will you do me a favor? Will you ask him if this is an open mic that's recording? Can you ask if the fellow from Brattleboro, if this is an open mic that's recording?
Yeah, I'm hoping the next article will go into the line items. Yes, it has. And so I feel bad for Sarah. We're having to figure out the numbers.
No, that you individually.
Is there anybody else who wishes to vote who has not? If you wish to vote, I'm about to close the ballot. Okay, come on down. Come on down. The deciding votes will be cast. Is there anyone else who wishes to vote? Voting is closed.
People don't have to, right? We have to count. We haven't counted yet. Thank you.
That's right. The emblem's legal. I only grew up, I got playing marbles.
They got during the cheap seats. Don't worry about it. Blend right in.
Are we counting or just passing? Oh,
That's a good idea. Okay. So you got about 90 more minutes left? I'm hoping we're done before. Oh, she's in the middle of a count. Yes. There is that fact also. Yep. Well, yeah. Well, I quoted statute. It's all recorded now. You can't back out when somebody quotes statute. Hi. What's that? Yeah. Okay, here's the results of your vote. And I've never seen a contested vote for agent of deed of land. All right, here we go. Here's your vote. So there were 71 votes cast. Andy received 41. Rob received 30. Andy is your new agent to deed land. Congratulations, Andy. All right, if people settle down, I know it's exciting here. This is true reality television right here. Okay, so we're going on to subsection I, library trustee for a term of 5 years. And it is a term. Presently, I've been in that position. I'll open it up to nominations.
I nominate you, Mr. Dow.
Okay. Second. Okay, another 5-year term. Any other nominations at this point?
Move to close nominations.
Nominations have been closed. Okay, so what's the thing about cast one vote?
No.
Okay. All in favor of me serving on a library committee? Opposed? Nay. Okay, ayes have it. Okay, J, library trustee for the term of 1 year. And this was a position that was held by Janet Hamilton, and it's been a great bereavement to us in the library losing her after all these years. So that position for 1 year is open. I'll open it up to nominations.
I nominate Danny Capaluta.
Danny Capaluta has been nominated. Is Danny here?
She was, but we ran late,
So, okay, but she's willing to accept the nomination. Very good. So we have Danny Capaluta. Is there another?
Danielle Witham.
Who?
Danielle Witham.
Danielle Witham. Danielle, will you just stand up? Very good. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we have another vote. So it's, I'm sorry, somebody say the names again.
Danny and Danielle.
Danny and Danielle.
Wait.
That's not confusing. So, okay, she is withdrawn, so we're back to Danny Capaluta. Catalupa. All right, all in favor of Danny Capalupa serving for 1 year on the Library Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Danny. All right. We're done. And that was the easy part. Here we go. We ready for Article number 4. To see what sum of money the voters will vote to pay the town's running expenses and how it will be collected. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Very good. Second is right here. I will restate it one more time. What we are discussing is to see what sum of money the voters will vote to pay the town's running expenses and how it will be collected. Is there a number the board wishes to present?
It's this one, right? So, I don't have the formula for them. Do you have the number? Okay, so, Sarah, please
Sarah,
recite the number.
Do you want to stand up and say the number?
The total is $1,432,858.
$1,332,442.
No.
442.
Okay. I didn't write it down.
1,432,5,858.
Right.
1,432,858.
Can I get a clarification? Where the
Wait,
number came from?
yeah, clarification?
Where'd the number come from? How did you?
Where's the, Sarah, where's the number from?
I added the general and the highway budget together.
So the general and the highway budget were added up, and this is the number it comes up to, the 1.4 million.
So page 13, the very top, the first one, because that's to be raised by taxes, and then the very top of the highway, and I added those two numbers, and that's what we should raise by taxes for our town budget.
So I'll make a motion.
Actually, you won't,
Don't I make a motion that includes the final number in it?
I'm afraid I thought that was the final number. That what she just.
That can't be the final number because we got to discuss the line item.
Right.
What-
Right.
Okay, make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to raise, sorry, now I've lost the number. $1,432,858
Okay.
in revenue for the tax year 2025. Second? We need a second.
Okay, seconded, all right.
What?
No, we're discussing, now it's
Right,
discussion.
now it's open to discussion.
Now
I
it's open
saw
to
Bonnie
discussion.
first, and then I saw Ed.
What I have added up for 25, you would raise $1,443,210 by taxation, and you would authorize expenditures of revenue, $387,487 to equal a total budget of $1,830,697. And that would be due and payable on your first business day in October, with the day after the first business day, because I don't have a calendar. That they would go delinquent with 8% penalty added, and then starting the 1st of December, any unpaid delinquent taxes would be charged 1% per month in interest.
I'm going to ask you to restate that when we get to that.
I have the numbers.
Because I
Well,
can't.
the numbers are actually in the budget.
Okay, what, yeah. Okay, it's on page 13
It's on
is
page
where these
13,
numbers are coming
in the
from.
right-hand column.
So Bonnie is yeah, please restate it so I'm clear.
I make the motion that we raise $1,443,210 by taxation for the running expenses of the town, along with anticipated revenue of $387,487, equals a budget of $1,830,697 to be expended. and the taxes will be paid on the first business day in October with 8% penalty added, and then as of the 1st of December, interest at the rate of 1% will be added on any unpaid taxes.
I second that motion.
Okay, we got a second. Now we open to discussion. Questions or discussion? Lexa? And then I'll come to you.
I'd like to lower the taxes by $2,500 to offset the increase that the select board put from $5,500 to $8,000. So it should be go back to $5,500, so that should be $2,500 less.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, now we can discuss the motion. Is there any discussion? Yes, Paul?
I think, Lexa, maybe if you look at it, we increased by $1,000 this year. So you want to reduce it by $1,000. You don't want to go back and reduce it by what was approved in 2023, correct?
What is this for?
This is
Okay,
stipend for
on
board.
page 13, if you scroll down, you'll see towards the bottom, select board salaries. So in 2023, it was $5,500. In 2024, it went up to $7,000, and we were proposing another $1,000. So Lexa, you're saying you want to go back down to 2023, is that correct? Or you want to go to 7,000, is that?
To
So you do, you want to go back 2 years.
25 to 23.
You want to go back, you want to unwind what was done 2 years ago.
Okay, so what's proposed in the budget is that the select board stipend goes to $8,000 this year. Lexa is suggesting that it go back down to $5,500. That's her motion.
2 years ago, yeah, from 2 years
From
ago.
2 years, historically, that's where it was 2 years ago. So that is her motion. I have a second, and we're discussing it. Do people understand now? Yes. Wait a minute. Do you have a clarification?
I need to know who seconded.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry. Joel Katz. Excellent. Thank you. Darn, sorry, I missed, somebody was over here. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Just to clarify, Greg, if you look at the minutes from last year, it doesn't look like we voted to increase from last year, so I think that's where Alexa's coming from on going back to 23, is that there was no vote last year. So I just think that's where she's.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure we understood what the motion was, that's, yeah.
Is there more discussion? Yes.
My opinion is that they've done a tremendous amount of work, extra work, even though the law says it has to be voted on. That we have a lot of new people that have come on, that are really learning how to do all this stuff. They're spending a tremendous amount of time. And I don't know that it's fair to go back 2 years, maybe even 1 year. I would go back for 1 year.
Okay, is there more? Yes, here, and then, actually, Andy, do you want a point of clarification? Go ahead.
I'm Andy Coyne, I'm vice chair of the select board. I'm a little confused about the procedure. We made a mistake not making that an article. Can the voters vote to leave it as it is?
If we vote on this motion and they vote it down, then it will go back to what you originally proposed. If they vote for it, then it will become what Lexa has suggested, 5,500. This is a legislative deliberative body, and they can go into your budget, because this is a suggested budget, and they can alter it. They cannot move funds from, say, oh, we're going to take that extra $3,000 that we're taking out of the select board and put it into a dump truck. But they can reduce or increase the amount for any line item.
I think what Andy's saying, if this is required, if there's statutory requirement that it be a warrant article to adjust the stipends, then it's kind of a moot point that we're discussing.
So I have a point of question. Right now, what do you receive as a stipend?
I don't even know.
Do they get the 7,000?
Right.
It's so
Correct.
small, I don't even know.
Okay, so just, I'm trying to clarify this. So you up to 7,000, it was a vote of the board, but you can't do that.
Right.
So you're gonna have to revisit that. This is something totally different.
Right.
Now the town, you have to come back and put it in the budget next year and have it voted if you want to increase it. But what Lexa can do now is do a line item and say, I want this line item to be dropped here. Because this is the body that can do that.
Right.
But they can't leave it.
What?
They cannot leave it.
They can't leave it?
They can't leave it at 7,000.
Right.
Okay.
But what I'm being told, you are given a stipend of
Yeah.
7,000 presently.
You
Is that correct?
The line item in there, you just can't, the board just can't get paid that money because it wasn't approved for you guys to get paid.
Kind of what I'm
Right,
asking.
right.
But
But you
did
can leave it in the budget.
My question is, you voted the increase. Are you receiving the 7,000 presently?
I think so. Sarah, did we get did we just spend 7,000 in 2020? Yes, yes, the answer is yes.
Not till,
We're halfway through, we've only gone.
Oh, yeah,
So what does that work out to be?
right, right.
We only pay quarterly, because if you leave, you're not getting your full stipend.
Right. But presently it's
first
set
three
at
quarters.
$7,000.
Right, right.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. All right, I'm coming here, and then I'll go to Joel, and then I'll go back here. Oh, and I'm sorry.
So my question is that $7,000 divided amongst them?
Yes, yes.
So has anybody figured out the per hour? It's absolutely.
Oh, my God.
Wait,
Oh, it's not 3
I think people should understand this. This $7,000 is split among the whole board. They're not each individually receiving $7,000.
I would stay on the board.
Is that correct? Okay, that's what I want people to understand. Yes.
And also to figure out that without their help, we would be in serious
Yes.
situation.
Dude,
That is
I'm sorry, Joel, and then back here.
Okay, I just want to clarify whether or not the $7,000 and/or the $5,500 is salary. Are there other line items for stipend? Are there other line items for training? And is that in addition to the salary?
The $7,000 for this year is the sole sum total of funds that are paid to the select board.
But it's not
Full stop.
It's not in the list that way. It says salary.
Well, whether you call, we can call it
And there
a,
are other items in the list that says stipends.
should be a stipend,
we could rename it,
We do
but
have
I can
taxes
tell
pulled
you,
out of
as
it.
an actual matter, those are the only funds that are paid to the members of the select board throughout the course of the year.
So I can say we do get a W-2 and we do get taxes taken out. So it's
Right,
considered
yes.
income, yes.
Maybe that's why.
Okay.
I mean, we could rename it.
All right, take that under advisement. We're still on Lex's motion. Oh, yes, right here, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Ann Connor, I have a procedural question.
Yes.
We need to call a special session to vote on the school position. Since this is something that needs to be warned, would this be an opportunity to add that to the special session?
Absolutely, excellent idea, yes.
That's good, but this motion still stands on the floor because this body can change the line item.
So can you call the question?
I've got Erica and back there, and then try and call the question. Yes, please.
My turn?
It's your turn.
I'm Erica. I just am still a little confused as to whether we have the authority to make a decision if what Andy is saying is, and Alexa is saying is true, that the existing salary should never have been increased. And by the way, I'm in favor of giving the select board more money, but I'm confused as to how we have the authority to make this motion a vote.
Because they made the increase, they didn't have the legal right to do that. This body does. That's why they're going to have to come back.
So we could say, yes, keep it, and they get their $8,000.
If you vote down her motion,
Okay.
then it'll stay at the 7,000 until they have the special meeting. Okay?
When it's
We're going to get
right.
to this.
But the board can't get paid
Until we have our
it's approved by the
special
town.
meeting.
There.
Yes, right, right.
So they're out the big money. I'm sorry, I think, was there, yes, yes.
I had my hand up.
Yeah, you did, but there was somebody behind you first, and then I'll come to you.
Becky Antel, I'd like to
reserve the $7,000. I mean, that's still a pity.
8,000.
All right, so what?
If we can change the line item to.
Yes, you can. It's going to be a mess.
8,000 is what we recommend.
Okay, so what we have on the floor is Lexa's motion to reduce it to 5,500. If somebody seconds her suggestion that we bump it to 8,000, then I have an amendment of an amendment. So then we go and talk about the 8,000, go through that, vote it up or down, and then we'll go back to Lexa's amendment. So if somebody seconds her suggestion.
It was seconded.
Oh, sorry, okay. Discussion. Yep.
It's already 8,000.
Yeah. Right.
It's already.
Right, I think that's all we have to do, if anybody.
We are on an amendment of an amendment. Now it's $8,000. They are going to have to go back and do a special meeting on this.
Right.
What's in the budget already is 8,000. The 7,000
But
is
you,
44.
the thing is, you voted it yourselves. You couldn't do that. You have to bring it back
But I'm
out.
just saying, the money,
Okay, so would this cancel out? If it went to 8,000, would this cancel out the problem?
it's already.
No, it doesn't, it doesn't. We should.
That's what I thought.
I think Christie's
Carlotta?
right. We should vote on Lex's motion.
Legally, this was a legal blunder, and I'm always reading in the papers, League of Cities and Towns, fine towns for doing things illegally. How is that gonna turn around and bite you in the butt for doing something illegally?
Right, I think the answer is no. If the town feels that the money should be in the budget, so that if we have we're gonna have a special meeting, and at the special meeting, everyone approves spending that money that was in the budget on $8,000 total for all the members of the select board for the next tax year, then the money's in the budget. If we agree with Lexa's proposal, which is to reduce it to 5,500, there won't be the money in the budget, and regardless of whether we vote to raise it or not, the money's not going to be there. So the question is whether the town feels we should make sure the money's in the budget in case the town does agree.
CJ.
Clarification, that all makes sense to me, but there's still an extra $1,500 in the current budget we're doing right now that's not been, that we haven't approved. Do we need
Last
to do
year's
that?
7,000. We approved it in the budget, but it wasn't a warrant line item to give you guys an increase from 5,500 to 7,000.
I don't know that, I don't know if we have to go back.
It was last year.
If we approve 8,000 for this year, I don't.
Okay,
I mean-
Bonnie?
Right, but Bonnie has her hand up.
As I understand, years ago, unless the rules have changed, we can vote a budget, we can vote how much is raised by taxes, and we vote how much anticipated revenue we're going to spend. But I don't know if we have the legal right to take out a particular item. I think that the select board, they know maybe the feeling, but I think they have the right to spend the money, wherever.
No, you are talking about, you're talking a line item, and this legislative body has the ability to increase or decrease that line item. You just can't put it anywhere else. That's why you're here. That's why they got into trouble, was they made their own decision.
That's where I thought
think
maybe
Bonnie's
the rules have changed, because I figured we could do the bottom line, basically, what they get to do.
I just did a refresher for the town meeting moderator, and this was still, as far as I understand, the way you can do it. Okay, Drew, and then,
I'd like to make a recommendation that we.
I'm going to have an amendment to an amendment with a recommendation.
I would recommend that we vote down both amendments and put it back the way it was. And when we do our special meeting, we have two articles. One authorizing the raise from last year retroactively, and one authorizing the raise from this year. And that cleans up all the procedural problems.
Second.
No,
Then are we still?
we have an amendment to an amendment. I can't put another amendment on it, all right?
That we vote
Exactly. So,
Okay.
I'd like to call the question.
thank you. Second? Thank you. All right, now we're voting on this amendment here, which is to leave it at 8,000 as it's shown in the budget. All those in favor of moving it up to 8,000, please say aye. Aye. Against? Okay, you just bumped it to 8,000. I thought Drew had a good answer. All right, but now.
Kept it 8,000.
Okay. Right. Exactly. But the thing is, the amendment to the amendment has been carried, which carries out the original movement. So now the number has been bumped up to 8,000. Now, remain at 8,000. Well, this body is actually bumping it for you, getting you out of trouble.
Can we do a vote recall, please? We can.
Oh, yeah, you can. But the thing is, the vote recall can only happen if somebody voted positively asks for it. And if you want to drag me through that, it's going to take me forever. I'm just honest. This is deep weeds. You can recall it. They're still going to have a public meeting on this. So you have another chance at this.
Okay.
All right, so now that the amendment to the amendment has been passed, we go back to the original amendment, which puts the amount of money up to 8,000. Do you want to discuss this again?
No, brings down the amount.
From 8,000.
No, you just passed the amendment to the amendment.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, the $8,000 replaces the $5,500. That's what you just did. So now the $5,500 is no longer there. Now we go to the amendment original, though it is not original to what Lexa suggested. Call the question. Who said that? Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of passing the amendment that the amount be set at 8,000, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. The ayes have it. You really want me to keep going? All right. I win. Okay, now
Yeah,
we're
don't-
back
yeah,
to
we-
discussion of line items. Ed?
I just got some confusing things. On page 15, we have a Vermont Green update for $100. And on page 16, we also have a Vermont Green update. I believe one of those is for the state and one of those is for
The town.
The town. If we could somehow rename those so they're different and that looks like a double item, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we could, yeah, that's fine.
Also, there's a line item on page 16 that apparently we're either paying for the mud season 2022 or we're doing something. So if that is a bill from mud 2022, that's one thing, but if it's an addition to the flood damage reserve fund, I would suggest that we merge those two together. So we don't have 75 or.
Okay.
Right.
So I'll respond to that.
please.
So, we actually are concerned that we're gonna have extraordinary mud season, expenses this year, like we did not last year, but the year before. So we put that in as kind of a plug, I guess you would say, and, if it's not used, it's not used. But we, through counsel from our road crew, we did include a number for mud season.
So that's mud season for 2024 in case.
This coming, yes.
For
Well,
No, it's for
no,
next
it's for next year,
So it's-
We didn't vote for one this year, is my
So
recollection.
that's just additional money that we're gonna have to buy more. So like you have material,
Gravel.
winter materials.
Gravel and fill, yeah,
Winter and now.
right,
Mud.
right.
Jen?
It should just be seen mud season.
Materials
I think
mud.
it just says mud season, right? Oh, it had the wrong year on it, yes, because that was the.
That's when it was
yeah,
an
that was
issue,
when it was,
after the
yeah,
really bad mud
yeah,
season a
that
couple
bad.
years ago.
It should
Yes.
just be materials, not.
You are, yeah, absolutely, Jen.
Okay, good. Any other?
We're not still paying for 2022.
I believe it. Any other questions, observations, concerns?
Yeah.
Yes, Clara.
Page 13,
Page 13.
the local option tax, the 1%,
Local option tax, the 1%.
could here, we have what is proposed, but I don't see a line.
So, yeah.
So the
Do we
question
have
is
the
about the
actual number for this
1%
year?
local tax that we voted in last year, and Claire doesn't see it reflected in the budget if it was collected. Correct, Claire?
So, can you just give Sarah a moment, because
I didn't put it in the budget because it just come in and I did budget for it next year, but I did not go back and put it in this budget, so that's my bad, and I apologize. It should be in there, and we have received $12,000 to date from the 1% local options tax.
Which will be reflected in next year's
12,000.
town report, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So an oversight. The money
Yeah,
is
but we
there.
are anticipating hopefully more than 25 for the next tax year.
Yes, that's why it's in that general revenue, because what we will raise in the 1% will not be taxed, because we'll have gotten that revenue elsewhere. So it will offset your taxes, hopefully.
Okay. Any other questions?
Move the question.
Okay. What is the question?
It's back to Bonnie's.
The question is.
Ah, yes, Bonnie. Would you care to restate it, because none of the numbers have shifted, thankfully. So
Right.
Bonnie, please restate your motion.
Time for.
That we raise, authorized raise by taxation, $1,443,210. And that, along with other revenue, at $387,487, for a total budget of $1,830,697. And taxes will be due on the first business day in October. You go delinquent on the second business day of October, with an 8% penalty added, and interest at the rate of 1% will be added starting the 1st of December until paid in full.
Second motion.
Very good.
Good job, Bonnie.
Do you want to talk about this anymore?
No.
Call the question then.
We did already.
All right. Second, call the question? Very good, excellent. All in favor of voting for the budget as stated by Bonnie clearly and succinctly, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Thank you, one nay. Any abstentions? Very good, the ayes have it. Okay, we move on to the next article, which is Article 5, to see if the voters will authorize the Select Board to borrow money in anticipation of taxes. Do I have a motion?
Move the question.
Thank you. Second? All right, excellent. Now, any discussion? Or would you care to talk about it?
Well, I did mention it earlier, so it's basically, we will be borrowing in anticipation of taxes to support the payment of our flood expenses pending receipt of funds from FEMA, just so that people understand we will be.
Yeah. You can authorize it, you can discuss it, you can do whatever you like with it.
I vote that we authorize to.
This is your motion?
Yes.
Very good. I have a motion on the floor to accept the article. Is there a second? Second. Okay. All in favor of accepting this article, which is number 5, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. That one's passed. Okay. Article 6, shall the voters authorize the Select Board to spend unanticipated funds such as grants, gifts, and/or interest? Do I have a motion?
Move the motion.
Second? CJ, thank you. Any discussion or any presentation?
No.
Okay. Call it. All right, second to call the question? Thank you, CJ. Very good. So, Article 6. Shall the voters authorize the Select Board to spend unanticipated funds such as grants, gifts, and/or interest? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? I'm catching my breath. Excellent. Thank you. Article 6 is done. Article 7, shall the voters exempt the Masonic Lodge Mt. Lebanon, number 46, land and building from taxation for a period of 5 years as provided in Title 32, Section 3840 V.S.A. Do I have a motion? No, we got to we got a motion, and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Do I have a first? Yes. Okay, and a second. Okay, good. Thank you. Second. Discussion. Question.
What is, if we move to make the property exempt from paying taxes over the course of 5 years, what is the projected amount of money that we have to come up with to compensate for that building and ground taxes not being paid?
Presently, I believe it is tax exempt.
Oh, yes.
And
It
it
is.
has been.
It has
Raymond, would
been.
you like to speak to the motion?
I think, you know, what just happened in California with all of the snow and everything else. Can you imagine something happening in Vermont? And it has. We opened the Masonic Hall for any emergency. That is an emergency fallout center. We spent the money for the generator and everything so that, you know, we qualify for this. And so for many years, you have voted us that ability, and we hope you do it again.
And it was leveraged this year in the July storm.
And then Irene too.
Yeah.
And in Irene.
And this has been a tradition of,
And 2 years ago.
for years.
About
So,
$5,000, I believe.
Around 5,000?
yeah.
Greg,
So, yes.
to Mr. Valentine's point, it's every 5 years.
Right, yeah. So this
comes
is
up.
not in perpetuity. Every 5 years there's properties in town that come forward who are nonprofits who ask for this. So this is the 5-year anniversary, so we're revisiting this. Ed?
Sorry, it's, we can clear out or approve the local portion, but the town itself is responsible for the $5,000, which is the education portion.
Oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what we can only, so the extra money that we have to pay for the town, we all absorb it by raising our taxes a little bit more.
Is there a line item that reflects this? Because I did not realize, that's information to me.
It's just how it follows out of the tax. If we
Okay.
decide to exempt them, we pick up these.
Okay, understood. Any other questions or observations?
Call the question.
Thank you. And do I have a second call?
Second.
All right, all in favor of Article 7, shall the voters exempt the Masonic Lodge here in town from taxation? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No? Understood? I still carry the article. Okay. Let's see, Article 8. We might be able to get through this one. To set, I thought we were going to get through this one.
Only because we're missing one article.
It doesn't matter if it's not on the warning.
Just letting you know, we're not having a town meeting next year.
We're not?
There's no article that says to have.
Yeah, this
right here.
This is not Article 8.
We're on it.
You didn't even let me read it.
I already put a question on that one.
Back
Who is
to
that
trailer
guy?
rock. Okay,
Where'd Ed go?
Article 8, which actually exists, to set the time for the opening of the next annual town meeting to be held on the first Tuesday in March 2025. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Now we can have discussion. What do you want to discuss?
Move the question.
10
What time-
a.m.
wait a minute.
10 a.m., but we have to pick a time.
Yeah, 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
And what's the date?
The first Tuesday in March.
It's the 4th.
By
The
statute.
4th. Okay, so it'll be 10 a.m., March 4th.
It's March 5th for next year. on
March?
Tuesday.
Today's March.
Today's the 5th. Hold on a sec. We're
Yeah.
gonna check our calendars. Hold on.
Just go to a calendar. We all
Want to
have
cause a
them on our
kerfuffle?
phones.
Everybody get your phones out.
Yep,
It's the
2025.
4th. Okay, so presently, the motion stands that we will have our town meeting on the 4th of March at 10 a.m. in 2025.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Call the question.
Call the question.
Thank.
Oh, sorry.
Second to call the question? Oh, I'm
wait.
sorry.
Can we talk about doing it at night so that more people who work can come?
If you make a motion and somebody seconds it, we can go through the discussion.
I make motions.
I second.
Okay. So now we're going to have a discussion about whether we should actually have it on the first Tuesday in March 2025 at 10 a.m. Who would like to address this issue? Would you like to? You have the right.
We have how many registered voters?
700 that aren't challenged.
And there's 71 people voting today. 10%. That's terrible.
Mhm.
People who are working, people who are in their 18s to 40s are not here and not being
Yes, Nelson.
Yeah, we tried this a couple of years,
Yes.
1 or 2 years, and we had no better reason.
We had fewer voters come.
On a Saturday, we did a Saturday.
We did a Saturday, we had fewer voters.
We can still discuss it.
I don't know what's, yeah.
Whoa. If somebody wants to say something, raise your hand. I'll recognize. Yes, thank you.
So I'm a Jamaica resident and I'm also a middle school teacher at Leland and Gray. So I'm heavily invested in the prosperity of my community and the kids that are going to grow up to vote one day. It's fortunate that I got today off, but it's not always guaranteed with our school board approval of what the calendar is going to look like. My husband works up at Stratton, and he works all day on their municipal water system. And to take time off is challenging, especially in March, this time of year. So I would propose that we consider the other voting demographic in the community, that is the folks that don't have always the luxury of a Tuesday morning. So can we offer or plead for the teachers in Leland and Gray and for Jamaica Village and for, you know, our local residents, like, let's do a meeting, like, totally have a fun informational time in the morning, but the voting and the experience, if that could happen at the end of a business day, like a 4 o'clock meeting, that would be awesome. Even later.
So
just as a reminder, we don't make that decision, so that's just, you know, feel free to stand up and, right?
So my name is Keegan, and I really do care about this community, and I care about it would really mean a lot for folks like me that, like, we care about our community, but it's not always a guarantee that we're allowed to miss a day of work to be here, voicing what our property taxes are going to look like and be. So please, for my sake and for Ms. Anthony's sake, could we maybe meet next year in the evening? Like 4:30 would be awesome. It's a shorter commute for me. I promise to get all of my work done so that I can be here on time. It doesn't work. I take the first day off.
Okay, hold on. My suggestion to this motion is that if you want to replace the Tuesday, which is a defined time people understand, that you suggest an hour and a date. Otherwise, people are voting on something that, what it says in the warning is that we're setting a time and date. So if you want to set a time and date, I would suggest that you put it forward. Otherwise, people don't know what they're voting for.
So may I suggest?
No, you're making a motion.
You're making a motion.
Thank you. For like 5:30, let's go with 6. I'm hearing a lot of sound. So our headphones are working here. Can I make a motion that on Tuesday, March 4th of next year, we meet as a community at 6 p.m.? Please, pretty please.
Yes, so the motion, and it's been seconded. Discussion? Now remember, we're on an amendment of an amendment, so we're going to work it back. Okay, yes, Ben?
My only problem with that is some people don't like to drive after dark. So I'd like to make another amendment.
No. We'll vote on this one, and if it's defeated, we'll go back to the original one, and then you can make your amendment. Because I've got 2 amendments going here. So, any more discussion on this suggestion, which is 6 p.m., Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025?
I'd like to hear Ben's comment.
He said it was after dark. For many people, it's difficult for them to drive.
So what does he suggest as a?
He doesn't have to suggest anything. He's talking to this amendment.
Right, but I would like for him to tell me what day and time he thinks would be better.
Would you prefer the traditional 10 a.m. on the second Tuesday of March, first Tuesday of March? Is that your preference because it's during the day?
The 10 a.m. is fine, not the day.
Not the day? All right, that's another discussion. Okay, right, exactly. Okay, so let's get, we're an amendment of an amendment. Yes?
That night vision question that just got brought up is actually, a question of,
ADA.
Yeah, an ADA question, and it should be carefully considered. for people who cannot, older people and people that cannot drive at night. It needs to be considered.
Point taken. Any other discussion? Yes?
Can I amend my motion?
No,
No?
no. We're on an amendment of an amendment. We got to get through this one first, which is a suggestion of 6 p.m. on the 4th of March. Yes, thank you. A second?
Second.
Excellent. Now we're going to vote on the amendment of the amendment. So it has been suggested that on the, we have our town meeting at 6 p.m. on the 4th of March 2025. All those in favor? 6 p.m. All in favor of this, please say aye. Those opposed? Now we go back to the original. And at this point, I'm just going to restate the original. It's now for 10 a.m., March 4th, 2024. You,
25.
whenever. I'd like it to be 2024 because that'll be over already. So Ben, you have a motion?
Yes. Due to the conditions of the roads and fluctuation in the weather in the beginning of March, I would like to have it the second Saturday at 10 a.m., which would give people working time to get here. It'll give the town people time to clear the roads, and maybe the roads will be in a little better condition, and I think we'd have a better attendance rate.
All right, so what is the date? Does anybody know the date for?
Second Saturday is the 8th.
Second Saturday is the 8th. All right, so the motion is that we have the town meeting at 10 a.m. Saturday.
Second that?
I'm restating. Yeah, yes, you seconded it.
I didn't.
Who, did somebody second that? There it is, CJ King, sorry. You're really dragging me through the coals here. So, 10 a.m. Saturday, 8th of March, 2025. That is the amendment to the amendment. So discuss.
Great.
Yes, Andy?
Just, may have been during COVID, but did we do 2 years?
Yes,
at the
we
town
did.
garage?
ASAP. Yeah.
And I know it was different times, but just for some information, we may have had just a few less.
We did. We had fewer.
Not a whole lot less, but
We had fewer.
had about the regular bunch.
Those were also COVID years.
Yeah. Yes.
We tried it.
Yep.
We tried it.
Go ahead.
So it's the 10 a.m. piece. Not everyone works a Monday to Friday day. And, you know, my husband is currently working Saturdays and Sundays until the end of April. So how do we accommodate the people in town that don't have the flexibility to meet on a Saturday?
That's fairly valid.
Well, oh,
Can we suggest a 4 o'clock on a Tuesday?
I would love a 4 o'clock on a Tuesday.
But that's gonna be the same issue.
all right. Somebody please do not second that, because we can go back to that later. Let's get through this one first. I have 1, 2, 3. Yes.
I would suggest a first Tuesday in March, given the low turnout on Saturdays in the past and given the tradition in Vermont of the first Tuesday in March. But suggest the time at 4 o'clock so people could leave work early without cutting out too much. And also put in a stipulation for transportation for anyone who requires it with ADA issues.
Oh, we'd have to budget.
Okay. Oh.
Via bus or volunteer.
If somebody seconds that, we're back to an amendment and an amendment.
We're still working on that amendment.
Exactly. And that is the 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 8th of March.
So let's come up
Yeah, wait a minute. I had other people here. I believe you were, and then you, and then I'll go to Paul. Yeah, wasn't you? I'm sorry. I'm really losing track. You, right here. Wait a minute, Paul. Paul, what?
Yeah, can I just take a 1 moment recess to change the setting here?
Oh, we'll just talk among ourselves. Yeah. So I had, Paul, that was the question for that, right? Okay. Did I call? Yes. Well, I'm going to let Ben, and then you can speak again. Yep, go ahead, Ben.
Okay, we've been here since 10 o'clock this morning, and it is now 12:30, so we're looking at 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and if we have some serious discussion besides what we've seen today, it could run 3 or 4 hours. Do you want to be here
After work.
at that time of night and drive home in a snowstorm if we had one?
If it's about what my
Oh,
property tax is.
whoa, no, yeah, direct your questions to me. No discussion, you have people in front of you. Yes, here?
I mean, I don't know how the procedure has to work legally, but I know in other towns where I used to work, that they would do like a night session with the information, and then voting would be open all day. Is that a possibility? Do we have to vote in person, or can more people vote if it's open for more hours?
All right, that would be another motion to the amendment, My answer would be to, wait a minute. My answer to you is then you go to Australian ballot and you no longer have the town meeting. You can't have both.
Because people are nominated live.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? So we.
That's what I'm just asking if that's.
Yeah, no, as a practical matter, you
Okay,
can't
wait a-
separate town meeting into two pieces. Right.
Heidi?
I know that Marlboro does that. Marlboro has a all Australian ballot.
There are towns that do
I'm
it.
not suggesting anything, I'm just saying I know.
It does exist in small towns, yes.
Yeah.
That's a significant.
We're not an Australian ballot town. That's the only reason. I'm just answering the question, which is, so we can't go by Australian ballot
Paul?
unless we change our charter.
That's the other thing. You could do it, you're not going to do it today.
We'd have to.
Paul?
As a compromise, let me throw this out. I don't know if it needs to be an amendment. We discussed many years ago alternating morning and evening. One year is morning, the next year is evening. We used to alternate with the school in one day. The discussion was we could at least have half the people who can't make it during the day could potentially make it during the evening. Some of us are going to make it regardless. But it's a compromise between two legitimate positions and how to move forward with that.
The motion still on the floor was suggested by Ben Williams, a 10 a.m. meeting on Saturday, the 8th of March, 2025. Is there more discussion? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Now, all in favor of moving the meeting to 10 a.m. Saturday, 8th of March of 2025, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, I'm going to go to raising hands. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right. Hands down. All opposed, please raise your hand. The opposed, the motion is defeated. We go back to the original motion, and I think it was to have the town meeting on the 4th of March, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Call the question.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of having the town meeting on the 4th of March, 2025 at 10 a.m., please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Okay. Article 8 was thoroughly ringed through. Article 9, to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. This article, because there's nothing specifically warned in it, nothing can be voted on. However, announcements can be made and suggestions be made, and I saw Carlotta's hand go right up, and then over here. Here we go.
I am just wondering who decides who goes on the front page of the town report? Whose decision is that?
Who decides who goes on the front page of the town report?
Oh, it's staff. It's the staff. You know, we pulled together the report, yeah.
Are you the staff?
No, I mean,
I asked the select board, I didn't just do it myself.
Right.
I said I would like to dedicate this to Terry. I think
I know, Sarah, I know, because I knew Terry also. You know, I strongly recommended her for the position. The concern is Terry is not a Jamaica resident. Richard Thomas worked for roads for many, many years, and he was a great worker, so when he dies, he lives in Townsend, we get to put him on the front. I thought the town report was dedicated to Jamaica.
That's mine.
We're going to take that into our budget.
Do you want to address it?
yeah.
So hold on.
If you feel strongly, next
Hold
year.
on.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. We're getting tired and restless. I understand that, but please just hold on for a
I
minute.
guess I would just say, if you feel strongly about having someone on the cover of the report or having artwork on the cover of the report, anything you feel strongly about, just come to the board. Come to a select board meeting and propose it.
Whether the person lives in Jamaica or not.
There's no rule. There's no rule. No.
CJ?
Just a quick comment that the dedication brought me to tears, and I thought it was beautiful.
Here, here.
Any other announcements? Oh, yes, sorry, sir. And then Raymond, I'll come to you.
Hi, I'm Greg Lakis. I'm the Emergency Management Director in Jamaica now. And right now, we're getting ready to do the update to the local emergency management plan that's been done within the month. And one of the things I want to make everyone in town aware of is there's a program in preparation for the next emergency called the Citizens Assistance Registry for Emergencies. Essentially what this is, it's a program where if you live in an isolated part of the town, or if you're susceptible to getting, stranded, you can sign up for this registry, and during an emergency, the local emergency management committee will be notified by the state of your existence in an area. We would make sure that we can check up on you and make sure that everybody's okay. There's 3 ways to sign up for it. First is you can do it online through the Emergency Management Committee, the Vermont Emergency Management Committee. I have some paper here that you can fold in thirds, fill it out, put a stamp on it, and mail it in and register it that way. For the third way is that you can contact me and I'll come sit down with you and help you register for this program. It's probably just a pain in the neck until you actually need it, but I know as a first responder in the fire department, we're in the middle of trying to do something, trying to find information in real time. Having something like this beforehand would be a tremendous help. It's real public safety. So thank you. There's some more, there's some of these over there.
Raymond, and I'd like to, Drew, and go, is there something you wanted to add to that? No, I'm going to go with Raymond and then Drew, and then I'll look back here, and then I have Alice.
We have a law on the book on parking on the sidewalks in Jamaica.
Yes, we do. We have a brand new ordinance that just recently went into
I wish
effect.
they would enforce it then on the street going down to the school, because the Airbnb, they're parking on the sidewalk all the time. And if somebody's walking with a dog, they gotta walk out into the road. And somebody's gonna get hit.
If you saw, I'm sure nobody read it, but at the end of the select board, letter from the select board, I actually highlighted the fact that we have a new ordinance and that we have heard from the town that enforcement is a high priority. So we are in the process of putting in place the process to enforce the ordinance that we just passed. The past ordinance had some failures in it from a legal perspective. This one is fully enforceable, and it is our intention to do that. But feel free to raise that anytime.
Okay, I have Drew here, then I have Alice, then I'm back here, and then over to Jen. Okay, Drew?
So,
Yeah, please come up.
So, yeah, come on, Dana. I know we don't have a school meeting anymore, but I think it's important that people, or school board elections, but yeah. We'll do that later. So if you guys did not get a chance to look at the annual report, there's lots going on in our area around education and things that you really need to be engaged in if you care about what happens to not only the education of our kids, but ultimately probably the biggest part of your taxes. So if you have not done so, open up the annual report. There's a pretty good, the school report, if you got one, there's a pretty good explanation here as to how your tax rates are set. As Representative Sedalia said, there's been a lot of movement in Montpelier repealing certain pieces of legislation that change our pupil weighting. With that, this year has been a lot of discussion about what we can and what we cannot afford. If you flip to the next page back, there's some, somewhere here, page number 4. Page number here, let's go, 19. 19. There you go. Page 17 are the student enrollment projections going out for the next 10 years. We've been talking about this in Jamaica now as long as I've been coming to town meeting in Jamaica. Our student enrollment has been significantly dropping there was a time not that long ago where Jamaica Village School had over 100 students. Projected enrollment in Jamaica next year is 9. 9. So there are some discussions and some difficult decisions that are coming as part of our school future and what we're doing for our kids. So again, this is a school meeting, but I think it's very important that everybody understand that we are at a point in the West River Education District where we're going to have to make decisions about the long-term education of our kids. And that may involve shutting down school buildings. Right now, it's very difficult to justify educating 9 children in a school. So
it's not beneficial to the students, academically and socially.
Again, we can't, like, there's no town vote or anything like discussion right now, but I just want to make sure that when we have a group of people, that you know those conversations are coming. At our last school board meeting, we committed to having public information meetings here in Jamaica as well as other towns. So there will be an opportunity for you to come and talk to the school board about what you think, give us your ideas and questions, concerns. But I just want to highlight this is really important stuff. If you have questions, we've been in the weeds for months on this, but yeah, I'll take questions.
Yeah, please, if there are questions, yes.
So, just so everybody here can hear it, I think the board has talked, we had that in the articles that you can't close a school without the vote of the town. However, the board has come to the conclusion that you can remove the Jamaica students from the school as long as you're still using it for educational purposes such as, pre-K or special programming or something. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that our school board can force our Jamaica kids out of our own school and give them the privilege of attending Jamaica Village School for like 2 weeks out of the year. So just so you know, that would not require a vote of our town.
Erica?
I just wonder out loud what the feasibility has ever been discussed about, I know they're different districts, but thinking about Wardsboro and Jamaica joining in terms of populations at our school, which is a great campus. Just putting it out there, I know that's very complicated.
It's complicated to the fact that you have to bust the district to do it because Wardsboro is part of the River Valley District.
I know.
And they would have to separate themselves from Dover. And they would also possibly have to give up their school choice for high school.
Well, you never know. I'm just putting it out there.
There's a lot to that, a lot of politics behind that. We would have to bust out of our district, and the other towns within our district would have to agree to us leaving. Right now, we might have to have that question with Wyndham. And so that's another thing. We're just waiting to see. But
a question I have,
yes.
So I'm a teacher, I'm dedicating my entire life to the youth of this community, right? So I feel this deeply. If the building has to be used for educational purposes, is it at all possible that instead of paying rent on a building that's for sale for central office, that we could maybe rent out to central office our campus? Is that on the table for conversation?
So my official work on the school board is done today. So
you have to refer that question to me.
So but what I will say is Dana and I have had plenty of conversations, and neither one of us are in favor of any sort of backdoor deal where the building would be mothballed without coming back to
Yeah.
So if someone thinks there's something like, we're hiding it, that is something that we are absolutely not for. So if we are going to have a conversation and ultimately make a decision to remove the current kids that are in Jamaica and move them to a different West River school, that will be done completely above board, in the open. We'll have that meeting in this building. That's something that we've already talked about, and we're not. There are avenues. You are correct. There are avenues where the school board could do that in a less open way. We are not willing to allow that to happen, so we'll certainly have that conversation here.
We've heard you guys.
Paul,
Could you speak to the financial ramifications to our tax burden should you close?
So,
If there is any.
Yeah, so education funding is complicated. And unfortunately, keeping the school open with 9 kids or closing the school is not like millions of dollars in difference. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings in a $13 million budget. So as a percentage of the operating budget, it is not huge, but it is a significant amount of money as we start looking at what has been 10%, 15, 20% increases year over year. You are going to continue to see education
Increases.
tax increases that are, double digits in years to come, and unless there's significant changes in the education funding formula. If you look at regardless of what you do, your taxes are going to continue to go up. And the challenge is that our student population is continuing to decline, and even though our local school budget is not increasing significantly, when you divide that by the number of students that we have, which is how we draw down state dollars, our percentage goes up. Add that to the CLA, which again is listed in here. Until we reappraise, our CLA is at 78% or something.
Yeah, no, 73.
Which is having a huge impact on our tax rate.
You get set reappraisal at 80%. And the projected time of getting an appraiser, Selectboard?
We finished in 2028.
2028.
3 to 4 years of dealing with a CLA that's unrealistic. So,
I don't have anything good to say. Lots of pain coming in the education tax code for us.
Oh, yeah, Karen, and then back to you.
So, one of the major reasons why we have fewer students is because the school administration neglected to what's the word? Renew, thank you, our pre-K license. We had a very, very successful pre-K program down here, and then they forgot to do that. What was that, Dana?
There's been
Well, I know the update. So, for years now, we have not been able to send our 3, 4, and 5-year-old students to this school. We've been forced to send them down to Townsend. There's no way to get a school going if you send away your 3, 4, and 5-year-old students who now have friends down in Townsend, and they don't come back here to Jamaica. We are now applying, our principal, Monica Deuce, who is just wonderful, is applying for our new pre-K, or to renew the pre-K license.
yeah. Update.
Yes.
They sent out applications, and only one person applied to bring their pre-K student to Jamaica.
Meanwhile, Townsend is overflowing and doesn't have enough room for their
Another
pre-K
problem.
students.
Another problem.
They are going to have to refuse to take pre-K students because they don't have room for them. But Jamaica can be forced to send our students down to Townsend, but Townsend doesn't have to do anything.
Until the district does away with the school choice?
So right now,
School choice is another problem.
so over 60% of Jamaican students are choosing to go to a different over 60%.
60% of Jamaican
Jamaican
students are going to
choosing
school
to
somewhere.
go to school somewhere
I
else.
see.
They can afford it.
So that is part of the challenge.
Whoa. I don't want to get into this. Whoa.
This is industry.
I'm talking about, not about money, but when you work in that direction, you go in that direction, it's convenient. It works.
Whoa, okay, whoa. Back to subject matter.
So 60% of our Jamaica students are going to other district schools, meaning Townsend or Newbrook. There is a question as to whether a preschool program, the board did vote several months ago to bring a preschool program back to Jamaica. Obviously, with a single student signed up for that program, the question of viability does exist there as well. So if you're interested, this is not a school meeting. If you're interested, the annual meeting is coming up. I highly recommend people attend. We will have public information meetings that I guarantee will come to Jamaica. We're pushing very hard to bring them to Jamaica. School board meetings are open.
Next
I will
one's
say
March
that March 11th. Katie is the only member of the public that we see every single month, so please come.
People should come.
Everybody should come to the meeting. The school board meetings are held at Lebanon Gray. They are available by Zoom. Every meeting you can attend. We will be having some informational meetings in Jamaica, so when you see those, please come.
And your budget's the 27th to vote, Australian, 27th, town office,
Town office.
9 o'clock, 10.
Karen, do you have a question?
Thank you.
Unfortunately, our select board meets at the exact same time that the
Yeah.
school board meets, so it's tough to do both. And, I've been trying to do select board, but
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a lot of one things here, so Jen? Go ahead. Is this on? Go ahead, and then Alice.
I will be super quick. So this year is the 100th anniversary of our library. So starting this summer, you'll see a series of events that will be happening to celebrate that. We're also doing a dedication of our children's library to Janet Hamilton. So you'll see a dedication. So we'd love to have everyone join us. There'll be kids and adult events. We also have a very new and enthusiastic librarian. Did she leave us? She's librarian. Oh, Madison. So please, I know that we had some disruptions last year in our scheduling. I would love to see everyone come back into the library, harass Madeline as much as possible, and just join us, because there's a lot of great programming going on. It's great library. What's that?
Website and the catalog.
So I just, we just redid the website and the catalog. It's much easier to use. There's like lots of colorful pictures. You can place holds on books online. I can get whatever you want. So please come into the library. We're getting brand new library cards to celebrate the 100th anniversary, so they won't be songs, not long hours anymore. We've rebranded. Everything looks very professional, so come be proud of your library. Yes, and we also have Ruby, who's in there on Thursday evenings? Monday evenings, I think. And then Laura is in there on Saturdays, singing songs and reading stories to our little ones. So please come join us. Oh, we're restarting the book club in April. Thank you. So keep an eye out for the colorful event flyers that I post at the store and at the library, and sometimes the post office if I can remember to and the website. Yeah, and Facebook. Thank you.
Okay, I have Alice next, and then this lady here, and then we go over here, and then I think Karen might have something. Alice?
I'm Alice Abraham with the Jamaica Historical Foundation, along with our chair, Karen Almaden. And if you look on page 47, at the bottom, you'll see the website for our vital records databases. It's accessible through that. Also, it lists our great team of volunteers, residents, and also part-timers. And we always welcome more people to join. Now, talking in terms of anniversaries and celebrations, we don't stop with 100 years for the library. We're going to go for Vermont 250. What does that mean? We just received an award. It's grant. It's kind of small, but it's for these celebrations throughout the state. And Jamaica, of course, was founded in 1870. And no, 1780. I'm a little different. Anyway, so right on it's all tying into the signing of the Declaration and so forth. So we're going to expand that to the next 5 years of celebrations. So we're looking for people to join us as historical interpreters on our self-guided walking tour. You got a sample of that last summer walking tour at Jamaica Day. We dropped the old home part out of the title. And talking of Jamaica Day, this coming year, mark it on your calendar if you're a vendor or if you want to help with the committee work and activities that day. Is Saturday, August 17th. So that falls right in between some of the other local big fairs. And, you know, there's a lot of excitement going on, so join the team.
Thank you, Alice. You're all set. I'm going to go to Karen and then here. Karen?
So I wanted to mention that we lost quite a few Jamaica folks this last year, and one of them was Janet Hamilton, and another was Patty Dixon, and both had put incredible parts of their lives into our children and our town. So just wanted to mention that. And also with everything going on with flooding and such, and working as a lister in the town office, I'm seeing the incredible amount of work that Sarah and our new assistant town clerk Mary are doing, and Mike. I also wanted to talk about Grace Cottage Hospital, which is our local hospital. There is a big fundraising campaign going on to raise money for a new primary care facility down there. They are getting busier and busier as time goes on, and working in, basically the primary care unit is in 2 houses from the 1840s. So anyway, watch for fundraising activities there.
And there's a flyer up front?
Yes, there is. Yep.
Yep, right here.
Alice, we are also doing a cemetery walk through the cemetery this year and involving local schools. Keegan left, but she's getting involved with the high school students and will be dressing up in period clothing in the cemetery so people can walk through and see who some of the residents of the cemetery are. I also wanted to talk just a tiny bit about JAMBA, Jamaica Area Mountain Bike Alliance. Heidi Pancake and Dave Marks just left, but we have done incredible trails and networking throughout Jamaica and into other towns for mountain biking. And we're working right now on the skills loop down at the grade school, which will be for adaptive biking for little kids on their little Strider bikes and senior citizen biking. And then also some little offshoots for people who are a little more adventurous. We also put in 2 new trails at Ball Mountain Dam, working on some more, and we have another project on the Pikes Falls Road heading into Winhall. And after this is done, we're bringing some tables down, and we have soup and bread and cookies, so join us. And that's all I've got.
Hi, I'm one of those people that was mentioned in the beginning, a landowner not yet active in town. And I want to tell you, as over 20 years on a town floor in another state, in another town, you folks are amazing. Your board is amazing, but most of all, your moderator.
Yes.
Thank you, that's generous. Erica, I'd like to introduce to the town the Poet Laureate of Jamaica, Erica Bowman, and she's going to read a poem.
Okay, it's 2 parts. It starts sad, but it gets better. It's called A Meadow in Mourning. I came across a meadow in mourning on an August afternoon. A cloud of blackbirds shrouded the sun and darkened the oncoming moon. The faded colors of wildflowers past remembered the pallor of June, but a single red leaf on a neighboring tree announced an impending doom. Winter is coming soon, the leaf sighed. Winter is coming soon. And the horrific rumble of the haying machine then struck a harrowing tune for that meadow in mourning, those grasses in waiting on this August afternoon. Part 2. I've come across a meadow in May on a sunny afternoon. Flowers are budding and grasses are greening. The summer is coming soon. And all across the
fecund field, Camassia has started to bloom. Camassia has started to bloom. Blue, blue, cerulean blue, the color of skies reminds me of you. With outstretched arms and starry eyes, its nectar feeds the hoverflies. Fly, fly, hoverflies, their love of flowers remind me of you. And bumbling bees, rumbling bees, all the world is given to bees. From blossom to blossom, harvesting pollen, their industry reminds me of you. The sweet of their honey reminds me of you. And this world is reborn, every morn, self-sustaining, recycled and new. From the sprouting of leaves to the leafing of trees, the song of the birds and the buzzing of bees, and the mourning dove sings a mournful tune. But this meadow in May reminds me of you. This meadow in May reminds me of you. Thank you.
Is there anything else anybody would like to announce or speak
I'll
to?
make a motion to adjourn.
You're not on the right article.
Always trying.
So remember, look for this. This is the school budgeting that Drew was talking about. Look for it around town. Study it, and it has the dates for the next meetings coming up that are important. The senator left behind a printout. There's the Grace Cottage printout also for the information of what's coming next. And Drew also has a flyer up here for Rescue Inc. To inform you of what's going on there. The last thing I'd like to say is, and I thank you very much for that kind recognition. However, after 10 years, I think I'm kind of done.
Don't do it.
I will get through this year if the town needs, for whatever reasons, but I would like to entertain somebody, come to me in the next year. I can help you get ready. If I'm pressed to it, I'll do it next year, but I'm slowing down and you're speeding up. So just keep that in the back of your hat. I will accept a motion to close out Article 9.
So moved.
Second? All in favor to get out of Article 9, please say aye. Aye. Move on to Article 10, to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.